and licensed and accredited by the Department of Social Welfare and Development since 1984. Our mission is to ensure that children enjoy their rights through family-focused and community-based programs. We strive to be a lead organization in upholding the rights of children who are neglected, abandoned, and with disabilities. Through the years, we have been able to serve over 41,000 children and youth with disabilities through our Enable Communities for Inclusion and Partnership for Inclusive Development programs. Thousands of children found caring and loving families either through adoption or foster care through our child care and placement program. Thousands of social workers and social development workers were trained through our Norville Training and Research Center. Our programs use multi-level and comprehensive approaches and interventions. Under Child Care and Placement Program, or CCNP, is our foster care program that provides for a planned period of substitute family care by licensed foster families to orphaned, abandoned, neglected, and abused children. Here, kids get to experience the love, care, and protection they need. Also under CCNP is our domestic adoption that endeavors to find permanent and loving families for children through legal adoption. While our largest program, the Enabling Communities for Inclusion, works towards inclusive and resilient communities for the inclusion of children and youth with disabilities and their families in health, social, education, and other mainstream activities of society, in partnership with local government units, national agencies, and civil society organizations. Our ECFI program is currently implemented in the provinces of Cebu, Ilocos Sur, and Northern Samar. Our Partnership for Inclusive Development program provides financial and technical support to local nonprofit and people's organizations involved in the causes of children and youth with disabilities. Notably, we have our Down Syndrome project, which focuses in helping the families of children with Down syndrome to better understand the potential and capacities of their children. We also have our training center for social welfare and development called the Norville Training and Research Center. NTRC is continuously honing and enhancing the knowledge and skills of social workers and other social development practitioners in the areas of alternative family care and community-based inclusive development for children and youth with disabilities. All these were made possible by our partners and donors: Liliani Funds, Paul Foundation, CBM, Australian Aid, Adoption Centrum, Consuelo Foundation, and International Justice Mission. To know more about Norville, feel free to visit our website or our Facebook page.
Down Syndrome 101. Rights of the Child. This video will discuss about the rights of every child. These are the basic things that every child should have. The United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child is a treaty that lays out the rights of children and the standards to which all government must aspire in order to promote these rights. The rights that will be discussed in this video are based on these four clusters: survival rights, development rights, protection rights, and participation rights. The rights of the child including those with Down syndrome. 1. The right to be born, to have a name and nationality. The child should not be called names they do not identify with. 2. The right to be free, to have a family who will take care, support, and guide them. With positive and nurturing environment, children with Down syndrome can develop their potentials and make meaningful contributions to their society. 3. The right to good education, to develop potentials and become productive, so they can learn how to take care of themselves. 4. The right to have enough nutritious food, appropriate clothing, decent and safe shelter, and be provided with adequate health services. 5. The right to play, leisure, and recreation. Just like any other children, it is important that they are given the chance to socialize and make friends with other kids. 6. The right to be protected against abuse, from danger and violence brought about by calamities, war, and conflict. For children with Down syndrome or children with other impairment, it is important that we use proper language not just to be politically correct, but to communicate effectively and with respect. Let us not use the word mongoloid. Do not use retarded or mental retardation. Instead, people with intellectual or cognitive impairment. Use typical or typically developing instead of normal. They also have the right to be protected against all forms of bullying. 7. The right to live in peaceful and healthy environment. 8. The right to express my own views, opinions, and belief, and to join organizations. Children with Down syndrome often experience speech delay and difficulty in articulation. They may have a lot to say, but it may be months or years before they produce words. So it is best if we provide alternative ways such as sign language, use of pictures and symbols, for them to practice their right to express their own opinions and desires. 9. The right to be protected, defended, and assisted by the government. There are certain laws provided not just for children with Down syndrome, but for other impairments as well. Republic Act 7277, Magna Carta for Persons with Disabilities. Republic Act 9442, Benefits and Privileges of Persons with Disabilities. Republic Act 10070, Persons with Disabilities Affairs Office. The establishment of institutional mechanism to ensure the implementation of programs and services for persons with disabilities. Republic Act 10754, Expanding Benefits and Privileges of Persons with Disabilities, VAT Exemption. Batas Pambansa bilang 344, Accessibility Law. As a state party of the United Nations, the Republic of the Philippines should implement the rights of the child, including those with Down syndrome.
Good afternoon, everyone. So, welcome to our participants here at Zoom and on our Facebook Live. So, welcome to our webinar on Everyone Can Work, Vocational Education and Work Transition for Learners with Disabilities. So, if we have colleagues who are having a hard time joining here through Zoom, this webinar is also live streamed on our Facebook page, Northfield Foundation Facebook page. So, to formally start this webinar, we'll start po with a prayer. Miss Gingy.
O Lord my God, when I in awesome wonder consider all the world and submit. I see the stars, I hear the rolling thunder, thy power throughout the universe displayed. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. And when I think of God, His Son, its therein sent Him to die, I scarce can take it is that on the cross my burden gladly bearing, He bled and died to take away my sins. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. When Christ shall come with shout of acclamation and take me home, what joy shall fill my heart. Then I shall bow with humble adoration and then proclaim, my God, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art, how great thou art, how great thou art.
Thank you, Miss Gingy, for the prayer. Again, welcome everyone on our webinar on Everyone Can Work, Vocational Education and Work Transition for Learners with Disabilities. So for those who just joined, if meron po tayong friends, co-parents, co-teachers na nahihirapan pong mag-join dito sa Zoom, we are also live on the Facebook page of Norville Foundation Incorporated. So they may join the webinar there po. Ayan. So to formally welcome our participants this afternoon, I am calling the Executive Director of Norville Foundation, Miss Maria Teresa Nuki. Miss Tere.
Kaya nahihirapan ako. Di ako maka-start video.
Ayan,
Kaya,
naka-on na po. We
okay.
can see you po.
Okay, sige.
Good afternoon, Mr.
Good afternoon, Ranil. Hi, Teacher Landa. Hi, Kai.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, Kai, for that introduction. Magandang hapon sa lahat at Happy National Children's Month. Ang tema po natin sa taong ito para sa National Children's Month ay New Normal na walang iwanan. Karapatan ng bawat bata ating tutukan. No? So mga magulang, mga kapwa advocates para sa karapatan ng mga taong may kapansanan, Teacher Landa, mga iba pa nating participants, representatives from our local partner organizations, mga CBR practitioners, magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Kapag naririnig natin ang salitang karapatan, madalas ang unang pumapasok sa ating mga kaisipan ay mga batas, di ba? Kasi mga batas ang nagbibigay sa atin ng karapatan. Sa bahagi ng mga bata at ng mga taong may kapansanan, madalas ang unang pumapasok sa ating isipan ay United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. Kasi dun sa international instrument na yon, naging daan para magkaroon tayo, ang Pilipinas, ng maraming batas para sa karapatan ng mga bata at mga programa na highlight ang karapatan ng mga bata. Ganun din naman sa Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Nang maging state party tayo doon, nagkaroon tayo ng mga karagdagang batas, nagkaroon ng mga ibang programa, nadagdagan ang atensyon, nadagdagan ang mga pinansyal na suporta para sa karapatan ng mga taong may kapansanan. Nakakalungkot nga lang na sa kabila ng mga batas natin dito sa ating bansa at itong international instrument na ito, ay hindi pa rin ganun na e-enjoy o nararanasan ng mga taong may kapansanan ang kanilang mga karapatan. Marami pa tayong mga advocates, mga CBR practitioners, marami pa tayong kailangang magawa, maisabatas, maisakatuparan para masabi natin, well, at some point, they are enjoying or they are able to experience their rights. Diba? Doon sa bahagi, ang ating tema ang ating webinar na yun tungkol sa Everyone Can Work, Vocational Education and Work Transition for Learners with Disabilities. Dito sa vocational education, work transition, at employment ng mga taong may kapansanan. Lalo na yung mga may developmental impairments, marami ang hindi na-enjoy or nakakaranas ng karapatan na ito. Siguro makikita naman natin, di ba? Actually, sa Magna Carta for Persons with Disabilities, may provision doon na dapat ang mga opisina ng pamahalaan, ganun din ng pribadong sektor, mag-employ ng mga taong may kapansanan. Pero hindi ako sigurado kung ilan ang nakakatupad sa batas na ito. Kami sa Northfield, nagsagawa kasi kami the other year ng isang pag-aaral tungkol sa sitwasyon. I think this is not the first time that you'll be hearing this, ng mga taong may kapansanan at ang kanilang mga pamilya. Doon sa mga taong may Down syndrome, doon sa mga naging subject ng pag-aaral o yung mga taong may Down syndrome. Iisa lang ang nakita namin na may hanap buhay. Tapos yung hanap buhay pa niya, nagtatrabaho siya sa isang sari-sari store. Ang trabaho niya doon, tagapagbukas at tagapagsara ng sari-sari store sa kanilang lugar. Parang pinagbigyan lang siya. Parang gano'n, parang token employment para may mapagkukunan siya ng panggastos para sa pagkain niya sa araw-araw. Nang tanungin namin ang mga magulang ng kanilang konsepto ng transisyon, karamihan sa mga naging kasagutan nila ay sa kanila ang transition ay pagtuturo sa mga bata ng tamang paghahanda ng mga sangkap o ingredients sa pagluluto. Pagluluto, pamamlansya, paglalaba at iba pang mga gawaing bahay ng kanilang mga anak. Yun ang itinuturo nila sa mga anak. Na supposedly nagta-transition kasi syempre hindi rin naman sila forever children at syempre sila mismo ayaw nilang maging forever dependent on other people. So nga isa sa karapatan nila itong sa employment. Nakatulad ng typical na tao na may karapatan nito, ganun din naman sila. Mapalad tayo ngayong hapon at pinaunlakan tayo ni Teacher Landa upang ibahagi sa atin ang kanyang kaalaman sa mga konsepto at prinsipyo sa pre-vocational, vocational, transition at iba pang related matters patungkol sa employment, lalong-lalo na ng mga taong may kapansanan. Ang kanyang karanasan bilang Executive Director ng Learning Center na nagtuturo sa mga learners with disabilities upang magkaroon ng gainful employment at kung paano magsimula ng isang simpleng pangkabuhayan ay malaking tulong upang makapagbigay sa atin ng mga valuable insights at tips kung paano natin ihahanda ang mga learners o ang mga anak nating may kapansanan na maging productive sa hinaharap. Na sila rin ay pwedeng mag-engage sa mga gawaing pagkakakitaan nila. O sila ay kikita o mababayaran. Diba? Siyempre tayong mga magulang, ang gusto rin natin, yung mga anak natin, there would come a time na hindi sila completely nakadepende sa atin. Pero nasa atin ding mga magulang kasi yun, kung paano natin sila ihahanda para sa ganung klaseng buhay. Kaya mga magulang, mga guro at community workers, sama-sama po tayong matuto kay Teacher Landa ngayong araw na ito at huwag po tayong mag-atubiling magtanong sa kanya. Karamihan sa atin, siguro, unang pagkakataon na maririnig ang mga ibabahagi sa atin ni Teacher Landa. So magtanong tayo, huwag tayong mahiya. Kung hindi natin naiintindihan o may karagdagan tayong katanungan, feel free. At pwede rin natin itong ilagay sa chat box or sa Q&A, yung question and answers, ang inyong mga katanungan. Sigurado ako na marami tayong matututunan sa hapong ito at ito ay makakatulong sa atin, sa mga magulang at lalong-lalo na sa mga taong may kapansanan kung, syempre may kung, kasi kung mag-e-end sa pakikinig natin ngayon, itong ating maririnig, hindi tayo masyadong makikinabang dito. However, kung isasagawa, diba? Isa sa puso, isasagawa natin ang mga ituturo sa atin ni Teacher Landa. Higit na makaka-benefit tayo dito sa ating pag-uusap sa araw na ito. So muli, nais kong pasalamatan si Teacher Landa. Teacher Landa, maraming salamat. Alam niyo po, si Teacher Landa, nakasama ko yan sa isang training. Diba, Teacher Landa? So not the first time that I'm meeting her. na pagpapaunlak, nang maging speaker ka namin sa araw na ito. Alam namin na busy ka. But thank you that you gave us some time for this important activity. Of course, nais ko rin pasalamatan yung team namin sa Northfield sa pangunguna ni Tess de la Cruz, ni Ranil, ni Kai, ni Clarice, ni Judy. Sino pa? I'm sure nandito rin si Gingy, Ranil. At nandito rin ba si Ron? At nandito rin si Lu?
Jinji, si Lou.
Si Lu o si Ron. So nais kong pasalamatan yung aming team sa Northfield without whom hindi natin mabubuo o hindi tayo magkakaroon ng webinar na ito na napaka-importante. Alam nyo, ito ang matagal namin pinag-iisipan sa Northfield. Paano kaya magkakaroon ng programa towards vocational training or employment or livelihood activities para sa mga taong may kapansanan. Kasi katulad nga, sabi ko, karamihan sa mga ating tinutulungan, mga bata. But mga bata, syempre nagkakaedad, nagiging youth, nagiging adult. Lately, may nabasa ako isang proposal, maganda yung pinopropose nila. Ano bang tawag doon? Metal craft, na kung saan makakabuo ng iba-ibang produkto na pwedeng magawa ng taong may kapansanan. So, pero paano magta-transition ang isang bata o isang kabataan towards employment? Paano makakatulong ang kanyang pamilya o ang kanyang mga magulang para ihanda siya para sa buhay na siya ay magkakaroon ng sariling kita o sahod na magagamit niya sa kanyang sariling pangangailangan at mas maganda kung makakatulong din siya sa pamilya, no? At saka syempre, ang mga taong may kapansanan, nagkakaroon din naman sila ng sariling pamilya. 'Di ba? So, paano sila support pagkakaroon ng pagkakakitaan o hanap buhay ng mga taong may kapansanan. Muli, maraming salamat sa ating lahat mga magulang. Alam ko rin, marami kayong trabaho sa bahay. Pag Sabado at Linggo, marami pa rin kayong trabaho. Pero maraming salamat at sa mga representatives ng ating local partner organizations. You took time out from your busy schedules to be with us today. Maraming salamat at magandang hapon.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you, Mr.
for the warm welcome and very relevant po na message, no? So sana talagang mapag-isip-isip din ang bawat isang attendees natin na nakikita ko sa chat, mostly teachers din po from all over the Philippines. Ayan, so to further give us the background and rationale of this webinar, I'm calling Sir Ranilo Sorongon, the Program Manager of Social Marketing Unit and Project Supervisor of the Down Syndrome Project of Northfield Foundation. Sir Ranil?
Magandang hapon, no? At maraming salamat kay Mr. E, no? At saka kay Kai.
Salamat din,
No?
Ronil.
Sinabi na, no, kanina ng ating Executive Director na napakahalaga na magkaroon ng ganitong uri, no, ng webinar para mas maintindihan ng mga magulang, ng mga teachers, public and private and public school teachers. Ano ba, no, ang konsepto ng pre-vocational? Ano ba ang konsepto ng vocational? Ano ba ang tinatawag natin na transition? Paano natin maihanda ang ating mga anak at estudyanteng may kapansanan na balang araw sila ay magkaroon ng kanilang livelihood at kung kakayanin, magkaroon sila ng gainful employment sa isang open na environment, okay? Tinatawag na open employment. No? Sa hapong ito, yan ay ipapaliwanag sa atin ng ating resource speaker na si Teacher Landa Bautista Abundo. Pero bago niyan, alamin natin ano ba ang mga basihan ng lahat ng mga sinasabi natin. Meron bang mga international convention na maging basis natin to demand from the government the rights of children and persons with disabilities? Meron ba tayong mga domestic laws, mga batas national na kung saan magamit natin pag gumawa tayo ng mga programa, pag mag-demand tayo na bibigyan ng ganitong serbisyo ang ating mga anak at mga estudyanteng may kapansanan. So bago si Teacher Landa, yan ang ibabahagi ko sa inyo. Okay, mag-share screen ako. Kaya nakikita ba yung slide ko?
Yes po.
So sinasabi kanina ni Miss Nuki, no, na meron tayong mga pinirmahan na ng mga international convention. Okay? So alamin natin ano ang international convention na yon. So yon ang ibabahagi ko sa inyo. Ano ba yung mga batas patungkol sa employment? Una, sinabi nga kanina na merong United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities na niratify ng Pilipinas, or the Philippines ratified the ratifies a certain convention. Dito lumalabas ang tinatawag natin na duty bearers and rights holder. So the government of the Philippines is the duty bearer. And the persons with disability, including the child with disability, they are the rights holder. So anong sinasabi ng CRPD patungkol sa work and employment? Sinasabi dito sa Article 27, specifically mentioned dito about work and employment. The right of persons with disabilities to work on an equal basis with others. Sinasabi parati sa lahat ng mga konvensyon na pantay ang lahat ng mga tao. Kasama na dito ang mga taong may kapansanan. So sa larangan ng pagtatrabaho, dapat pantay din ang oportunidad para sa mga taong may kapansanan. Okay, they must be given a living, a work freely chosen or accepted in the labor market, and work environment that is open, inclusive, and accessible to them. So basically, dapat pantay ang oportunidad. Sinasabi din na dapat pangalagaan. The government must safeguard and promote the realization of the rights to work, including the right to work of persons with disabilities. Sinasabi din na dapat mula sa recruitment, mula sa hiring hanggang sa employment, dapat ligtas, no, ang work environment ng mga taong may kapansanan. At dapat palaging pantay ang oportunidad para sa lahat. Kung ano ang tinatanggap na sahod at benepisyo ng mga taong walang kapansanan na nagtatrabaho, ganon din ang dapat matanggap ng mga taong may kapansanan. Binibigyan din sila ng seguridad, ng security, na sila ay makapag-join, no, ng mga labor groups at mga trade union. Dapat pantay ang pagtingin sa kanila dito. Sila din, no, ay dapat bigyan ng opportunity na makapag-access sa tinatawag natin ng mga general technical and vocational guidance program. No? Ito ang mga binibigay, no, ng ating TESDA, ng ating DOLE. So dapat ito ay ibigay din sa mga taong may kapansanan. Sila ay may equal opportunity din, no, na mabigyan ng tamang tulong na makapaghanap, makapagtrabaho, at makabalik sa kanilang trabaho. Dapat bigyan din sila ng oportunidad, no, sa tinatawag natin na self-employment. Ito ay i-discuss din mamaya ni Teacher Landa. Bigyan din sila ng oportunidad na magiging isang entrepreneur. Kasi ang iba naman sa mga taong may kapansanan ay may mga abilidad din, no, na magkaroon ng mga negosyo, magiging isang entrepreneur. At dapat i-employ sila ng ating pamahalaan at ibang mga ahensya ng ating pamahalaan. Okay? Dapat, no, bigyan din sila ng tinatawag na reasonable accommodation, no, sa kanilang trabaho. Ano ang ibig sabihin, no, ng reasonable accommodation? Kung ang isang trabahador ay gumagamit ng wheelchair, dapat may tamang sukat ang kanyang lugar na pinagtatrabahuhan. Kung siya ay isang little person, dapat naka-adjust ang kanyang upuan at ang kanyang mesa. Kung siya ay bulag, dapat merong program ang kanyang computer na tinatawag natin na screen reader. Bigyan din sila ng akomodasyon, especially sa ngayon, na magtrabaho sa kanilang bahay. Kasi very challenging, no, sa kanila ang magtra-travel from their home to their workplaces. Bigyan din sila ng pagkakataon na magkaroon ng mga karanasan para mapaigting pa ang kanilang kasanayan. Sinasabi din na dapat ang gobyerno must promote vocational and professional rehabilitation, job retention, and return to work programs for persons with disabilities, especially sa panahon ngayon. I'm sure marami ang mga nagsara na mga kumpanya na dating pinagtatrabahuhan ng mga taong may kapansanan. So dapat ay matulungan din sila na makabalik, no, sa kanilang dating pinagtatrabahuhan. At isa pa, dapat protektahan ang mga taong may kapansanan sa tinatawag natin na forced labor or slavery, or pagpipilit sa kanila na magtrabaho kahit hindi naman nilang gustong magtrabaho. Sumababasa natin dito na ang UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability nagkaroon ng iba't ibang provision to promote, to protect the employment of persons with disabilities. Meron din, no, isa pang international agreement. Sana narinig din natin ito. Ito ang tinatawag na the Ancient Strategy to make the rights real for persons with disabilities. Isa sa mga pangunahing layunin ng Ancient Strategy is to reduce poverty and enhance work and employment prospects for persons with disabilities. So sinasabi dito, nakita kasi nila na ang baba ng mga taong may kapansanan na nagkakaroon ng employment o ng trabaho. So sinasabi nila, dapat itaas ang antas, ang numero ng mga taong may kapansanan na makapagtrabaho. Itaas din ang partisipasyon ng mga taong may kapansanan na nag-aaral o nabibigyan ng mga vocational training at iba pang suporta na galing sa gobyerno. So sabi nila, dapat talagang tataas, no, ang numero ng mga taong may kapansanan na nakapagtrabaho. Tataas din ang numero ng mga taong may kapansanan na nakapag-avail ng mga programa na galing sa gobyerno. Galing sa TESDA, galing sa DOLE. Para sila ay magkaroon ng trabaho. Meron din tayong tinatawag na Republic Act 7277. No, ito ang Magna Carta for persons with disability. Meron siyang isang chapter on employment. No? Sinasabing equal opportunity for employment, shelter employment, apprenticeship, incentives for employers, no, na tumatanggap ng mga taong may kapansanan. So, no, sinasabi dito na ang mga employer, no, ay magkaroon sila ng porsyento, no, na 25% of the total amount paid as salaries and wages and 50% of the direct cost of the improvement or modifications of the work spaces. So, para mahikayat ang mga empleyado na makapagtrabaho at ang mga employer na mag-hire ng persons with disabilities, sila ay may mga insentibo. Kung ayusin nila ang workplaces, yung mga direct cost, no, ng pagkaayos or pag-modify ng mga workplaces ay pwede hingin sa ating gobyerno. Okay? Ang susunod, ang parati natin narinig, no, na bitaw. No, sinasabi sa Republic Act 10070, no, na dapat ang ating Persons with Disability Affairs Office, no, shall promote the establishment of organization of persons with disabilities in their respective territorial jurisdiction. Ibig sabihin nito, ang ating mga opisina ng PIDAW, sila ay inaatasan na mag-organisa at magsuporta ng mga samahan ng mga taong may kapansanan. At sinasabi din dito ng ating PIDAW, sila ay makipag-ugnayan sa mga national agencies, no, na magkaroon ng joint ventures, no, para sa livelihood opportunities, no, iba pang mga programa para mapaunlad, no, ang economic opportunities and social well-being of persons with disabilities. So maliban sa mga pagbibigay ng persons with disability IDs, dapat ito ay tututukan din ng ating mga persons with disability affairs offices. At ang mga magulang, ang mga taong may kapansanan, sabihan natin ang ating mga PIDAW officers na dapat gagawin nila, no, ang kanilang mga tungkulin, no, na itingin, no, ang kanilang programa on employment for persons with disabilities. Okay? Ito ang Republic Act 10524. Ito siya ang amendment, no, ng sinabi ko kanina ng batas na Republic Act 7277. Ano ang sinasabi, no, ng RA 10524? Sinasabi ng batas na to na ang mga persons with disabilities shall not be denied access to opportunities for suitable employment. Kung sila ay kwalipikado, dapat pantay na sila ay magiging empleyado din. At ang napakahalaga nito, sinasabi na at least 1% of all position in the government agencies, government offices, or corporation shall reserve 1% for persons with disabilities. Pag-isipan natin, kung lahat ng mga local government units natin ay magkaroon ng 1% no, na empleyado na may kapansanan, ilan na kaya ngayon ang may trabaho? Kung lahat ng ating mga barangay ay may isang persons with disabilities na nakapagtrabaho, libo-libo na rin ang mga persons with disabilities na nakapagtrabaho. Kaya i-assert natin, no, ang karapatan ng mga taong may kapansanan sa pagtatrabaho. No? Libo-libo ang ating mga barangay sa buong bansa. Kung sila ay mag-employ lang ng kahit isa, napakaraming taong may kapansanan ang mabigyan ng pagkakataon na makapagtrabaho. So dapat ito ang dapat nating tingnan. Ito ang tinatawag natin na social accountability ng ating gobyerno sa mga tao at sa mga magulang na may anak na may kapansanan. Ito ay mga halimbawa ng mga international conventions, ng mga national laws, no, on employment of persons with disabilities. Okay. Ano pa ang pulisiya? I don't know kung narinig na natin to. Pero may tinatawag tayo na executive order, no, on the Economic Independence Program for persons with disabilities. Sinasabi lang naman no, sa executive order dito na dapat magkaroon ng programa ang iba't ibang ahensya ng gobyerno para sa mga taong may kapansanan. Mula Department of Employment ay dapat meron, tutulungan din ng ating DSWD ang paghahanda sa mga taong may kapansanan. Dapat iorganisa din ng Cooperative Development Authority na magkaroon ng kooperatiba ang mga taong may kapansanan. Ang ating TESDA no, ay dapat gumawa din no, ng mga technical and vocational courses. Ang ating Department of Information no, ay dapat magkaroon ng mga videos, no, ng mga reading materials to promote no, a positive image on the rights of persons with disabilities. No? At dito rin, nasasabi na mabigyan ng priority ang mga samahan ng mga taong may kapansanan, ang kanilang kooperatiba, na doon sa kanila mag-order ng mga pangangailangan. Meron akong mga nakilala na mga kaibigan ko rin, mga kooperatiba ng persons with disabilities na nagsusupply no, ng mga chairs no, sa ating Department of Education. So ito, no, alam natin na merong international convention, may UNCRPD, may mga domestic laws tayo, Republic Act 7277, yung isa pang batas na nagbibigay ng 1% no, okay, na mabigyan ng porsyento ang mga taong may kapansanan na makapagtrabaho sa mga iba't ibang ahensya ng gobyerno at sa ating mga barangay. At meron tayong executive order no, that promotes the Economic Independence Program for persons with disabilities. Pero ang tanong, paano na kaya natin ihanda no, pagbata pa no, ang ating mga tinuturuan? Paano kaya tuturuan ng kanilang magulang no, ng mga teachers sa private and public schools? Ano ang tamang paghahanda sa kanila para later on sila magkaroon no, ng tamang livelihood, ng tamang gainful employment for them to become a productive citizen of the Philippines. Ito ang ibabahagi ni Teacher Landa sa kanyang susunod no, na lecture. So maraming salamat sa inyong pakikinig. Maraming salamat, Teacher Aisel.
Thank you, Sir Ranil, for the background and rationale. Ayan. So, may kita po natin na talagang may basis, legal basis po itong usapin natin. Kaya mahalaga po na pag-usapan. Kaya naman hindi ko na po patatagalin. I will introduce our speaker for this afternoon. Our speaker is Mrs. Maria Yolanda Michelle Bautista Abundo, better known as Teacher Landa. She is a sought-after special education consultant with over 20 years of experience in the field. She graduated Bachelor of Arts degree in Social Science, major in Behavioral Studies from the University of the Philippines in Manila. She completed her master's degree in education, major in special education at the University of the Philippines, Diliman. Shortly after, she finished a social entrepreneurship training program for professionals at the Ateneo de Manila University School of Government. Teacher Landa is the former executive director of the Learning Center, also known as TLC, a non-stock, non-profit special education center for children, adolescents, and adults with disabilities. Currently, she is the Special Needs Coordinator of Maria Montessori Children's School Foundation Incorporated, an inclusive school. And at present, she develops and manages the school's special needs office, including its supplementary support programs and services for diagnosed and at-risk students. So Teacher Landa is a staunch and relentless advocate for individuals with disability sector. So let us all welcome our speaker for today, Teacher Landa. Teacher Landa. Yan. So while preparing po to share her screen, no, reminders lang po for our participants, we have the Q&A box po where we can send our questions and all the questions will be addressed after po the lecture of Teacher Landa. For those who are watching naman po via Facebook Live, Miss Lucille and Miss Gingy is also watching the comment section. So if you have any questions, you can comment them at the live stream and we will also tell them later to Teacher Landa. So Teacher Landa, take it away po.
Okay, magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. I hope you can hear me clearly. Okay, let me just share my screen. Okay, can you see it now?
Yes,
Yes
Teach,
po.
you can see it po.
All right. Okay, so magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. No? I'm very happy to be here with you this afternoon as we learn the different possibilities we have for our children with disabilities. No? So thank you very much to Ms. Tere, who gave a very connected introduction, no? And to Sir Raniel for giving us the legal basis for our discussion this afternoon and the different programs that we will tackle, no, para mas mapalalim natin yung pag-intindi natin sa konsepto ng transition ng vocational skills training at kung paano ba natin mahahanda ang ating mga anak, ang ating mga estudyante for work or sa pagtatrabaho, no? So let's go and let's proceed to the next slide. Okay, so bibigyan ko lang kayo ng outline, no, just an overview kung ano ba yung mga pag-uusapan natin ngayong hapon. So kasama dito, a little introduction lang, no? Of course, we will talk about transition services. Itatry natin klaruhin kung ano ba ang ibig sabihin ng transition at transition service. Ano ba ang ibig sabihin ng vocational education and training? Ano ba yung mga components, no, nakapaloob pagka sinabi natin kailangan mag-undergo ang isang bata ng vocational education and training? Ano rin ba yung iba't ibang mga options for employment ng ating mga learners with disabilities? Ano yung mga challenges, no? Ano yung mga difficulties? Tapos, I'll give you some tips, no, kung paano ba natin masisimulan ng vocational training sa bahay, lalo ngayong pandemic na hindi tayo makalabas, no, or hindi tayo mahirap makipaghalubilo sa ibang tao. Okay, so I'll just turn off my video so it's easier for me to para hindi maglag ang aking video. Okay, so marami sa atin, pag tinanong, handa ka ba sa adulthood? Handa ka ba sa adulting na tinatawag natin? I'd like to think na tayo na neurotypical, tayong mga magulang or tayong mga guro, I'd like to think na naihanda tayo para sa mundo ng pagtatrabaho. No? Nag-aral tayo, nakagraduate tayo, ang ilan sa atin, nakapag-practicum tayo, no? Para maghanda sa trabaho. Tapos sumabak na tayo agad sa ating iba't ibang larangan, no, ng trabaho. Pero ang pinaka-importanting tanong sa araw na ito is, handa ba tayo sa pagtatransisyon, no, sa pagtanda ng ating mga anak? No? So karamihan sa atin, we think that children with disabilities are often parang children forever. Iisip natin parang habang buhay silang bata. Pero ang katotohanan, the truth is, they age the same way as their peers do. No? The same way that we age or the same way that we grow older. So ang trabaho natin bilang magulang is tulungan sila na mag-move from this one stage to the next. Para sa karamihan ng mga kabataan na walang disabilities, kahit papano, madali lang yung proseso nito, no? Mas madali para sa kanila. Pero syempre, iba, pagka pinag-uusapan na natin ang ating mga teens, mga adolescents, no, at mga adults with disabilities. Mas madami sa kanila yung mga nasa secondary level or high school level at mga adults na hanggang ngayon nahihirapan pa rin kung paano ba pupunta doon sa susunod na hakbang para mas maging productive, tulad ng sinabi ni Sir Ranil kanina, no? Para maging mas productive sa ating communities. No? So kadalasan, pagka nakikipag-usap ako sa mga magulang, ang kadalasan na tanong nila sa akin is, what's next, Teacher Landa? Ano ba yung susunod na hakbang para sa anak ko? And totoo ito, hindi lamang para sa mga bata na sa mga estudyante natin na mas madaming kailangan na supervision, no, for those who are in need of maximum support. Pati sa mga estudyante o pati sa mga learners na minimal lang ang support na kailangan. Laging tinatanong ng magulang sa akin yan, what's next? Ano ang susunod natin gagawin? No? So, kung titingnan natin itong ginawang pag-aaral ni Turnbull noong 2011, makikita natin sa iba't ibang life cycle, lumalabas yung mga issues pagdating ng adolescence, no, ages 12 to 21, dyan napapasok yung pagplano sa career, no, vocational development. Nagiging issue yan para sa magulang at nagiging issue rin para sa mga kapatid, no, ng mga estudyanteng may disabilities. Pagdating ng adulthood, nandun din, lalabas din. Ano ba yung choices ng vocational program para sa kanila? Ano yung choices ng pagtatrabaho para sa kanila? Dahil alam nating lahat na ang trabaho ay konektado sa pagiging independent, no? Sa pagkakaroon ng livelihood at pagiging independent ng isang tao. So, kadalasan, pag sinabi nating ang anak natin is nagiging adolescent na, malapit nang maging adult, ang daming nagiging issues or ang daming nagiging alinlangan, no, uncertainties ng parents. Siyempre, laging, ano ba ang susunod at saan ba ako pupunta? At ano ba ang pwedeng mangyari sa anak ko, no? Paano siya magiging independent? How will he manage? Anong gagawin niya pag natanda na siya? No? So dito pumapasok yung konsepto of transition. And gusto kong ipaliwanag, no, parang mas laliman natin yung pag-intindi natin dun sa transition. Nabanggit kanina nila Sir Ranil, no, at kanila Mr. Madami sa atin yung naguguluhan pa doon sa konsepto ng transition. No, nung unang nung mga early years, pag pinag-aralan natin ng special education related literature, no, may lumalabas na dalawang perspektibo or dalawang perspective pag sinabi yung transition. Unang-una dyan, yung narrow perspective na nagfo-focus lang doon sa transition ng learner from school to employment. Pero pumasok later on yung broader perspective, yung sinasabing lifelong process na nakasama sa transition, no? Nakasama diyan yung family, yung social environment, yung community, employment, yung leisure and recreation ng isang adolescent or adult with disability. So hindi lang nagpo-focus ang konsepto ng transition sa employment. Isa siyang whole perspective, no? It's a holistic perspective na dapat natin tingnan pag gusto nating ihanda ang ating anak sa pag-transition from childhood to adulthood. No? So in the ideal sense, pag titingnan natin, no, yung totality ng adult life ng ating mga anak, yung saan ba siya titira pag mas matanda na siya, kung kailangan niya ng supervision, sino ang magiging kaagapay niya, at doon papasok din nga yung sinasabi nating employment, no? Ano yung paano siya makikipagkaibigan din sa iba, paano siya makikitungo sa iba, pati ang kanyang physical health, no? Ang kanyang mental health. So lahat yan factors para maging successful yung kanyang pag-move or pag-transition from school to adult life, no? Para sa ating mga estudyante na adolescents na. So, kung titingnan natin, ang transition is more of a bridge, no? Ito ay tulay. Ito yung proseso ng pagtulay ng ating anak from pagkabata hanggang sa pagtanda. Kaagapay or kasama dyan lahat ng mga iba't ibang roles at iba't ibang responsibilities, no, sa pagiging adult. So, yung transition, kung iisipin natin, hindi lang ito para sa mga students with disabilities, no? Pati ito para sa ating mga neurotypical students. Pero mas madami kailangan na assistance, no? Of course, ang ating mga learners with disabilities. So, bakit natin kailangan pag-aralan to? Ano ba yung dahilan? Bakit kailangan natin pag-isipan ang mga bagay na to? Nabanggit kanina ni Sir Ranil, no, yung ibang statistics tungkol sa ating mga learners with disabilities. So many studies have already shown the education and employment outcomes of our youth with disabilities. No, marami sa kanila may malaking difference pagdating sa education and employment outcomes. Marami sa mga estudyante natin with disabilities, yung ages 16 to 26 na merong intellectual and developmental disabilities, very low yung rates of preparation for work pagkatapos ng high school. Marami nga sa kanila hindi pa nakakatapos ng high school or kahit man lang adapted secondary program, no? So, dahil doon, madaming nagda-drop out, madaming hindi nakaka-graduate, mas lalo silang nahihirapan maging prepared para sa pagkakaroon ng trabaho. No, so kailangan natin silang ihanda. Kailangan natin ihanda ang ating mga anak para mas maging successful itong sinasabi nating transition from childhood to adulthood or transition from post-secondary, from high school, no, or secondary education to adulthood. Okay, so masipaliwanag natin sa susunod na mga slides, no, yung transition services. Ano ba yung transition services na sinasabi? Tama ba na malilimitahan lang tayo sa pagluluto or paggawa ng crafts? Yun lang ba yung nakapaloob pag sinasabi natin yung transition services? So, ang transition services or transition planning, in the ideal sense, is a coordinated set of activities for a child with a disability designed to be within a results-oriented process. So isa siyang proseso na ang focus is pagandahin or i-improve ang academic at ang functional achievement ng isang batang may disability para mas maging successful siya pagkatapos ng pag-aaral or yung post-school na sinasabi, no? Post-school level, no? So pumapasok diyan yung iba't ibang serbisyo pagdating sa instruction, ano-ano ba yung kailangan natin ituro sa kanila, ano yung mga community opportunities or community experience na dapat nilang ma-undergo para mas maging successful, at ano yung employment development na pwede natin ibahagi sa kanila. So sa araw na ito, magpo-focus tayo sa ilang aspeto nitong transition services, no? Tatalakayin natin yung instruction, ano yung ituturo natin, tatalakayin natin a little bit about ano ba yung mga community experiences na dapat nilang natutunan, at pag-uusapan natin yung iba't ibang models ng employment. Pag-uusapan din natin yung sinasabing functional vocational evaluation. Sa susunod na hakbang, makikita natin may proseso yung sinasabing transition planning. Unang-una, importante natin malaman, ano ba yung profile ng anak natin? Ano ba yung gusto nating ihanda, or ano ba yung kanyang mga interests, ano ba yung kanyang mga strengths, no? At saka weaknesses na maaring maging basis para sa magiging goals natin or mga gagawin natin susunod na ano ba yung mga gusto nating ma-achieve para sa kanya. Susunod na step, yung pag-identify natin ng mga serbisyo na kailangan niya. Anong mga programs ba yung kailangan niyang i-undergo para ma-prepare siya sa susunod na mga hakbang. Tapos yung pag-develop ng action plan at yung pag-evaluate ng progress. So isa-isahin natin itong mga steps na to para mas maintindihan natin. Unang-una, build a profile through age-appropriate transition assessments. So unang-una, bago natin sabihin, ito yung gustong maging trabaho ng anak natin o ito yung dapat maging trabaho ng anak natin, alamin muna natin, no? Ano ba yung profile niya? Sino ba siya? Ano ba yung talents at interests niya? Ano ba yung gusto niya sa buhay, no? Ano ba yung gusto niyang ma-achieve in the short term? Ano ba yung gusto niyang ma-achieve in the long term? Ano ba yung mga challenges na hindi niya pa kayang i-solve ngayon? Paano natin siya tutulungan na mas ma-solve yung mga challenges na na-experience na ngayon? Ano yung mga barriers, no, na humahadlang sa kanya para maging fully part of the school environment or the community? At ano yung options? Ano yung mga nasa community natin? Ano yung nasa school natin, nasa eskwelahan natin? Ano yung nasa household natin, nasa bahay natin na pwedeng makatulong para ma-prepare siya sa pwedeng maging trabaho niya later on? So dito pumapasok yung sinasabi nating combination ng formal and informal assessment methods. No, so pag sinabi nating informal assessments, ang mga example niyan, i-interviewin natin yung bata o obserbahan natin yung bata. Titingnan natin sa mga sa school records niya or sa mga ginagawa niya sa eskwela, saan ba siya mas nagiging productive? Ano yung nagiging interest niya, no? So dito din pumapasok yung mga interest inventories, and I'll show you some examples later on. Tapos kung halimbawa na ilagay natin siya sa iba't ibang types of jobs or iba't ibang sample work, saan siya mas nagiging tutok, mas focused, at nagiging mas productive. So ito yung mga example kung paano natin malalaman or ma-assess yung profile ng ating estudyante. Meron din tayong tinatawag na formal measures, no? Ito yung mga ginagamit ng ating mga specialists. May mga adaptive assessments or mga aptitude tests, no? Mga personality tests, career development tests, no? Measures of self-determination. May iba't ibang tests na ginagamit yung ating mga specialists para masabi sa atin na ito yung preference or ito yung profile ng ating anak na magiging basis para sa ating mga susunod na plano. So, madalas sinasabi sa akin, Teacher Landa, mahal pong magkonsulta sa mga specialist. Ano po yung ibang paraan, no? Para malaman namin kung ano ba talaga yung gusto ng anak natin, no? So, yun nga, tulad ng sinabi ko kanina, ito yung example ng inventory, planning inventory. Kung magre-research tayo sa internet, meron tayong makikitang ibang mga tools, yung iba binabayadan. Meron ding mga free tools na tinatawag natin inventory, no? Career inventory, or interest inventories. Ito po yung mga example. No? So, nilagay ko dyan yung mga website na pwede ninyong puntahan para makuha nyo yung mga resources na ito. Itong My Next Move, itong Honest Interest Profile, ang kagandahan dito, may nakalista, no, kung yung anak ninyo is in the high school level, for example, nakakabasa siya, nakakaintindi siya, may comprehension siya sa mga basic comprehension siya of choices. This is a good inventory, interest inventory that you can do. So dito pipili siya, ano ba yung mga bagay na interesado ako? Interesado ba ako sa pagluluto or interesado ba ako sa kukumpuni ng iba't ibang gamit? Interesado ba ako sa baking o kaya interesado ba ako sa pakikipag-usap sa tao, sa pag-aayos ng mga stock sa isang tindahan? So may iba't iba pong mga items dito na pwedeng piliin ng ating anak para masabi sa atin, no, kung ano ba yung mas pinaka-interest niya na pwede niyang gawin for livelihood. Another example is itong student dream sheet. So dito may mga tanong, no? May mga tanong dito. Ano yung gusto mo after kang mag-graduate? Ano ba yung gusto mong matutunan pa after mong mag-graduate? Anong klaseng trabaho ang gusto mong gawin? Very simple questions, no? And kadalasan we ask this of our neurotypical children. Pero pagdating sa ating mga anak with disability, sometimes we forget, no? Sometimes we forget to really ask them and involve them in the discussion of what they really want to do. Because tandaan po natin, no, pagka gusto natin yung trabaho, kahit sa atin na mga magulang, mga teachers, pag gusto natin yung trabaho natin, we become more successful, hindi po ba? No, so kasama yan, no, sa pagpaplano. Dapat sinasama natin sila sa pagpaplano ng mga susunod nating hakbang for them. Halimbawa, sabihin sa akin, Teacher Landa, nahihirapan yung anak kong magbasa kasi hindi pa siya ganun ka-fluent sa reading, no? Meron din tayong interest inventories na pictorial naman, or pictures yung ginagamit, or photos yung ginagamit. So, pwede siyang mamili. Ano ba dito, halimbawa sa example na nandito sa screen natin yun, ano ba yung mas gusto kong gawin? Mas gusto ko bang maglaro ng sports, mag-alaga ng hayop, magkumpuni, maggawa ng mga bagay-bagay? Baka mahilig ako, baka plantito or plantito pala yung ating anak, mahilig sa gardening, o kaya magtrabaho sa labas, or mahilig ba siyang gumamit ng computer, mahilig magbasa, mahilig mag-research, no? May iba't ibang pagpipilian dito. So doon naman sa isa pang example, yung pictorial interest inventory, photos naman yung pwedeng pagpilian. Tapos meron pong instruction dyan. And this is available online, no? That you can do with your child. You can do it together. Sabihin mo sa katat, papakita mo sa kanya yung pictures, ano dyan sa tatlo ang mas gusto mong gawin? And there are several items, no, that he can choose from. And then, i-compute natin yan para malaman, masabi sa atin, mabigyan tayo ng insight. Ito pala yung gusto niyang gawin. Dito pala siya interesado. No, so pagka alam na po natin kung ano yung interest ng ating anak, ano yung gusto natin gawin, then that's the time we can set the measurable goals. No, so ano ba yung mga gusto natin na ma-achieve niya pagkatapos mag-aral. So, marami sa mga anak natin, maaring nasa elementary level pa lang ngayon, yung iba nasa secondary level or nasa high school level. No? So, ito yung magandang panahon. Mas maganda nga po later on, mababanggit ko sa inyo, the earlier we do it, the better, so that we can prepare for it more, no? And prepare for it better. So, ideally, pag gumagawa ng IEP, alam ko po naririnig nyo na yan kadalasan, yung individualized educational plan, or individualized transition plan para sa ating mga anak. Pumapasok dyan, dapat merong goals on education or training. Ano bang gusto niyang pag-aralan? Or mag-aaral ba siya pagkatapos mag-graduate? Anong gustong trabaho? At kung appropriate, kadalasan sa Pilipino, hindi po masyadong appropriate yung independent living, no? Kasi madami, sa ating mga pamilya, talagang magkakasama tayo sa ating mga tahanan, no? Pero kung isa siyang option eventually, pwede rin tingnan, no? Kaya ba niyang mabuhay mag-isa? Ano-ano yung mga goals natin para maging independent siya? Maaring titira siya sa sarili niyang bahay or titira siya kasama ng ibang mga kaibigan at magiging independent sa pamumuhay niya. No? So, madaming iba't ibang goals na pwede nating ilagay sa ating individualized education program or individualized transition program. So ito po yung mga example. Halimbawa si Dan, isa siyang 18 years old na mayroong intellectual disability at magsistay siya sa school hanggang 21 years old. Ano yung goal na nilagay nila dito na after graduation, magpa-participate siya sa vocational skills training twice a week. Doon matututukan yung kanyang paghahanda para sa kanyang trabaho. Pag nakagraduate siya doon sa vocational skills training program, yung employment goal natin, sana after 3 months, makapaghanap siya ng supported employment na position na na talagang magagampanan niya, no, ng according sa kanyang kakayanan. Tapos sa independent living, pagkatapos ng graduation at nakapagtrabaho na siya, ano yung pwede niyang gawin on a regular basis pagdating sa community-based activities niya? Paano siya makikipaghalubilo sa iba? Sino magiging mga kaibigan niya? Ano-ano ba yung mga leisure and recreation activities na pwede niyang gawin? So these are just examples, no, of the different goals that we can set for our children as they move to an older stage, no, or to the next level. Pwede din natin ilagay dyan, paano siya matututo tungkol sa pera? Paano siya matututong mag-save ng pera? Paano siya matututo na gastusin ng maayos yung kanyang sisweldohin? Pwede din natin ilagyan dyan, paano yung pagdating sa transportation? Lalo na po sa Pilipinas, mahirap ang transportation. Kasi hindi na gusto natin maging sanay sila. Paano kung pupunta lang naman siya sa malapit na community area? Punta lang siya sa mall. Halimbawa, 5 minutes away lang yon. Pwedeng lakarin. Matututo ba siya paano maglakad mag-isa papunta sa mall? Or kung sasakay ba siya ng Grab, alam niya ba kung anong gagawin? O kaya matututunan niya bang mag-commute? No? So yan yung mga iba't ibang bagay na pwede natin tingnan para mas mahanda natin o pag-isipan natin kung paano natin mahahanda yung ating anak for independent living. So sa pangatlong step natin, dito na papasok yung pag-identify. Ano-ano ba yung kailangan natin gawin? At sino yung magiging mga team members natin, no? Teachers ba? Special educators ba? Occupational therapist ba ang tutulong sa atin? So dito natin makikita ano yung iba't ibang instruction, ano yung iba't ibang curriculum na kailangan niyang pag-aralan, ano yung community experiences, saan ko siya dadalhin para mas matuto siya, at ano pa yung ibang daily living activities na pwede natin ituro sa kanya, no? Or dapat niyang i-undergo. So, ang ilan sa mga tanong na pwede nating pag-isipan pag ina-identify natin yung mga serbisyo or mga programa na kailangan ng anak natin, kasama dyan is yung strengths and yung weaknesses niya. Ano ba yung mga skills na kailangan niyang matutunan? Ano yung curriculum at saka yung work experiences? Ano yung babalik tayo dun sa ano ba yung gusto niyang gawin. Nasabi na ba niya sa atin kung ano yung interest niya na maging trabaho? Kung hindi pa, paano natin aalamin kung ano yung gusto niyang gawin? At kung saan natin siya pwedeng hasain para maging trabaho yung kanyang interest na yun, no? And all that. Okay, so for example, dito, itong estudyanteng ito, gusto niyang magtrabaho sa food services. Maaring gusto niyang magtrabaho sa isang fast food, halimbawa, or sa isang restaurant. So, kung yun ang goal niya, ano-ano yung kailangan natin ituro sa kanya para ma-achieve niya or maabot niya yung goal niya na magtrabaho sa isang food service organization or food service business. No, so diyan papasok yung safety skills, kitchen skills na kailangan niyang matutunan, yung exposure na makapagtrabaho sa isang cafeteria halimbawa, para alam niya ano ba dapat ang mga behaviors, ano ba dapat ang mga skills na meron ako para maging successful ako in the food service industry. So, susunod naman natin, papasok na yung pagplano, no? Yung pag-develop na ng ating action plan or yung individualized transition plan. So dito papasok na ano yung mga gagawin natin specific na activities, no? Para mas matuturuan siya magtrabaho. Later on, mas i-explore po natin yan pagdating sa instructional programming, no, na i-discuss natin in the next few slides. And then, syempre, yung last step, pag nakagawa na tayo ng plano, kailangan we keep track of the tasks and the progress. No? I-review natin yung mga goals na nilagay natin para sa anak natin. Na-achieve ba natin yung mga goals na yon? Consistent pa rin ba yung ginagawa natin doon sa gusto, sa interest at preference ng anak natin para mas maging successful tayo? Kasi baka later on, nagsimula tayo na ito yung interest niya, pero habang ginagawa niya yung trabaho, na-realize niya, ay, hindi ko pala ito gusto. So kailangan nating regular na i-review. Yan pa rin ba yung gusto mong gawin? Saka tayo mag-move on to the more complex tasks, to the more advanced levels. No? Okay, so there. So yan po yung ating sinasabing transition planning process. No? So ngayon, pupunta na tayo dun sa transition services explained. No? Explain na natin kung ano ba yung transition services. Naalala niyo po, pinakita ko itong slide na to kanina. No? Dito lumalabas yung instruction. Pupunta tayo later on sa ano ba ang components ng vocational skills training or vocational education or career education. Ang itatackle natin in the next few slides about instruction, about community experiences, and about employment development. No? Okay, so vocational education and training or VET. Kadalasan maririnig natin tinatawag siyang vocational training o kaya vocational skills training o kaya career education. Ang pinaka-importanting maintindihan po natin tungkol sa vocational education and training. Training siya in skills and teaching of knowledge related to a specific trade or occupation or vocation that the student wishes to participate in. So, pag sinabi natin vocational education and training, automatic, ang understanding natin dito is paghahanda, no? Para matuto tayo ng mga skills at knowledge na specific doon sa gusto natin gawin. Madami na pong studies ang nagpapakita na importante na simulan natin ang vocational education at an early age. Dapat maaga nating malaman, no, kung ano ba yung gustong gawin ng anak natin, ano yung functional na curriculum na dapat natin ibibigay sa kanila at ano yung mga experiences integrated in the community na pwede natin ibigay para mas maging successful sila. At isa pa sa mga sinasabing very important, yung sinasabing parent involvement and support. No? So, tandaan po natin, pagdating sa vocational education, magkapareho lang na kailangan yung knowledge, yung kaalaman, at saka yung skills, no? Yung actual na kailangan gawin, yung actual na pagtatrabaho. So, ang recommendation po ng Council for Exceptional Children's Division on Career Development and Transition na career development and transition services should begin in elementary grades for all children with disabilities. Bakit po? Dapat mas maaga pa lang nagkakaroon na sila ng konsepto ng pagtatrabaho. No? At the same time, yung appropriate work-related curriculum and instructional objectives dapat binibigay natin at each age level. So anong ibig sabihin nito? Halimbawa, hindi natin ibig sabihin na elementary pa lang pagtatrabahuhin na natin sila, no? Pero kailangan mas mabuksan na yung kanilang kaalaman or mabuksan na yung kanilang awareness sa different types of work. So for example, sa elementary age students, pwedeng magkaroon na sila ng iba't ibang trabaho in the classroom. Classroom responsibilities, halimbawa, pag somebody is in charge of watering the plants, merong in charge sa paglilinis ng blackboard, o kaya merong in charge sa pagkuha ng mga messages from the office or mga ganong bagay, no, na pwede din natin gawin sa ating mga tahanan, no? Simulan natin with very basic chores at home. That way, alam nila yung konsepto na nagtatrabaho or ng pagtatrabaho or occupation. For middle school students naman, no, so halimbawa mga grade 7, grade 8 students, dito naman pwede na natin introduce yung community job sites, no, para magkaroon lang sila ng idea kung ano ba yung mga kailangan na skills, work skills, pagka nagtrabaho sila, tulad ng hygiene, tulad ng pagdating ng tama sa oras, yung punctuality, pagdamit ng maayos, no? Pag-focus sa ating trabaho. Kaya importante po pagka nag-aaral sila, halimbawa yung pag-submit ng pag-follow ng deadlines, pag-ask ng tulong, paghingi ng tulong pagka nahihirapan sila sa trabaho nila, at pagtanggap ng supervision, no? Mga importanteng skills, yan, work skills, na makikita natin later on in the next few slides, are connected to actual work skills in different work settings. So, ang importante po, no, when we develop another recommendation that they are giving is we can develop school-based businesses, no, or enterprises or home businesses or enterprises na makakatulong sa ating mga anak para mas matutunan yung functional academic, yung work skills, yung problem solving, yung social skills, no? For example, kahit na maliit na tindahan in the school na sila yung mag-manage, halimbawa, natututunan nila yung money skills, paano mag-compute ng pera, paano makipag-usap sa ating mga customer, halimbawa, or paano makipaghalubilo sa mga customer, no? At kung halimbawa merong naging problema or merong naging issue, mapag-iisipan din nila kung paano nila isosolve, no? So mga examples na pwede natin gawin in schools, mga convenience stores, mga snack bar, lunch canteen, for example. In the learning center when I was director, one of the things that we put up before was a small store for the students, no? So sila yung halimbawa magkakaroon kami ng lunch offering for the week. So sila yung iikot sa iba't ibang classroom, sa mga yayas o mga parents, magte-take down sila ng orders. Tapos pagka sila din yung maghahanda ng lunch para i-serve sa ating mga customers. Tapos after noon, pagka magko-collecta ng payment, sila din ang nagko-collecta, sila ang nagko-compute. O magkano ba yung nabili nitong teacher Ann. Magkano ba yung nabili ni Teacher Ann? Ito yung binayad niya. Magkano yung sukli niya? So these are functional academic skills that they can learn, no, in the process of participating in a school-based business or even in home businesses that you can do at home. So ngayon dito na papasok na po tayo sa instructional or educational program. Dito na pumapasok kung ano ba yung dapat ituro natin sa kanila, no? Ang emphasis, no, generally speaking, ang emphasis ng ating education for students with disabilities, it covers different domains, no? So yung functional academic skills, yung vocational training, community living, and self-help skills. So lahat po yan, alam ko naririnig nyo na yung ibang skills dito, naririnig nyo na, bata pa lang yung anak niyo, no? Pero habang lumalaki sila, even as they get older, they will continue to need more advanced self-help skills, no, to be successful in a vocational level. So yung curriculum na dinedesign natin para sa kanila lagi dapat individualized, nakaangkop sa kanilang individual strengths, weaknesses, and individual needs. Functional, ibig sabihin kapaki-pakinabang, practical, magagamit nila. And then comprehensive, tulad nga po nung nabanggit natin kanina, pag sinabi natin transition, tinitingnan natin yung pangkalahatang functioning ng ating anak as they get older. So, pagka magpaplano po tayo ng curriculum or ng kailangan ituro sa ating mga estudyante or sa ating mga anak, lagi nating tatandaan na it's forward-looking. Lagi nating iniisip, ano ba yung magagamit niya sa tinuturo natin ngayon, na ano ba yung matututunan niya, rather, no, matututunan niya sa tinuturo nating mga lessons ngayon na magagamit niya as he gets older and as he matures, no? So lagi pong nakakabit ito sa ating needs at sa ating future life goals. Okay, so papasok na po tayo ngayon sa components, no? Ano yung pumapaloob sa vocational education and training programs. So dito po unang-unang pumapasok yung pre-vocational skills training. And usually this begins at the pre-teen level, so 9 to 11 years old. So dito po, pagka sinabi nating pre-vocational skills, prerequisite skills, no? Ito yung mga kailangan na skills ng ating mga anak bago tayo pumunta sa vocational skills. So ano yung mga examples ng pre-vocational skills? Dito natin sinasabi yung work readiness, no? Focuses on work readiness. Examples ng basic work behaviors. Impulse control. Paano siya pagka kaya niya bang pigilan yung sarili niya pagka nagtatrabaho siya o may ginagawa siyang activity, o nag-grab pa rin ba siya ng mga bagay, or gusto niya kagad simulan kahit hindi pa na-explain sa kanya yung gagawin. Cooperative behavior. Kaya niya bang magtrabaho na may kasamang ibang tao? Or kaya niya ba kung halimbawa sinusupervise siya ng teacher or ng iba pang kaklase para magtrabaho ng maayos, kaya niya bang tanggapin yun, no? Yung acceptance of supervision, or baka ayaw niya na kino-correct siya. Nandun din yung attention span. Kaya niya bang mag-focus sa trabaho for a certain length of time, or baka mamaya tumatayo-tayo pa rin siya, hindi niya kayang tapusin ang isang task, for a certain period. Yung concentration, mabilis ba siyang ma-distract pagka mayroong dumadating, or halimbawa may nagbukas lang ng pinto, hindi titigil na siya sa trabaho, or may nagdadaldalan sa katabi niya, kaya pa rin niya bang magtrabaho kahit may ibang tao na maingay. Dito din papasok yung basic work skills, no? Yung pakikipag-communicate, kung paano yung social skills, yung rate and production, kung paano magtrabaho ng tama according sa kailangan matapos. Yung accuracy, may attention ba siya sa detail? Kaya niya bang makita kung nagkamali siya? Yung quality ng trabaho niya ay maayos ba according doon sa kailangan, no? At pati self-help skills. So, ano-ano pa yung ibang mga bagay na pwede nating tingnan? Meron ba siyang mga disruptive or dangerous na behaviors na makakasakit sa sarili niya at sa ibang tao? Kasi definitely, kung meron pang ganito, kailangan nating tutukan para ma-manage niya, no, yung behaviors niya para he can work eventually together with other people. Can he safely sit or stand next to another student or another worker? Kaya niya bang keep his hands to himself, or mahilig pa rin ba siyang manghawak ng ibang tao? Those are part of social skills. No? Kaya niya bang mag-follow ng classroom or school rules ng independently? Whether meron tayong mga tinatawag na visual supports na makakapag-remind sa kanya na dapat pag ganitong oras, tahimik lang tayo. Or dapat ganito lang yung pakikipag-usap natin sa ibang tao. Kaya niya bang mag-transition or mag-move from one activity to another? Pagka oras na ba naitigil ang break time halimbawa, or ang recess or snack time, kaya niya bang huminto at pumunta sa susunod na task, gawin na yung trabaho niya, or hindi pa, no? So yun yung mga bagay na kailangan natin tingnan. Kaya niya bang mag-change ng schedule, or medyo rigid pa rin ba siya sa pag-follow ng schedule? Paano kung may konting changes sa schedule? Ano ang reaction niya or ano ang behavior niya? Kaya niya bang i-control yung temper niya? Or mabilis ba siyang magalit? Kaya niya bang i-regulate pagka nakakaramdam na siya ng konting inis or konting annoyance, no, sa nasa paligid niya? Ano yung klase ng schedule na kailangan niya? Kailangan niya ba ng visual schedule? Kailangan niya ba ng object schedule? Kaya niya rin bang mag-make ng choices, no? Mag-make ng choices ng tungkol sa gusto niyang gawin, or sa mga paano niya effectively ma-manage yung trabaho na nasa harapan niya. Ma-overwhelm ba siya pag madaming trabaho? Konti-konti lang ba yung dapat na ibigay na trabaho sa kanya para mas magampanan niya or mas matapos niya ng maayos yung kanyang ginagawa? Pagdating sa communication, no? Sa communication, nasasabi niya ba pagka may kailangan siya, or kung hindi man niya nasasabi verbally, nasusulat niya ba? Or natuturo niya ba sa pictures, halimbawa? Paano niya masasabi pagka kailangan niya ng tulong or ng assistance? Kaya niya rin ba, halimbawa, mag-follow ng instructions, ng one-step instructions or two-step instruction? Kaya niya rin ba, kung halimbawa yung tamang pakikipag-usap sa iba na merong konting distance, no? Ano ba tawag natin doon? Merong yung tamang proximity when talking to another person. Naiintindihan niya ba yon na hindi dapat harap-harapan makipag-usap sa ibang tao? And paano siya makipaghalubilo, yung social skills, no? Paano siya kaya niya bang mag-take ng turns? Kaya niya bang antayin yung turn niya? O halimbawa, nasa isang assembly line siya, hindi pa niya oras para magtrabaho. Kaya niya bang antayin yung susunod na ibibigay sa kanya habang ginagawa pa ng kasamahan niya, no, sa trabaho? nakakapag-accept ba siya ng constructive criticism? Kung halimbawa sinabi sa kanya na, um, ano, Peter, medyo may konting mali doon sa ginawa mong trabaho. Tatanggapin niya ba yung constructive criticism kung paano niya dapat ayusin yung trabaho niya? Or mabilis pa ba siyang magalit? No? So these are things na kailangan natin tingnan. Yung pag-identify niya rin ng emotions niya at ng emotions ng ibang tao, very important din yan. Yung self-help skills dito po, no, madaming minsan mahirap banggitin to sa ibang mga estudyante natin or ibang mga magulang pagka binabanggit namin. Halimbawa, very simple hygiene issues. Alam niya ba na kailangan maliligo siya at magsusuot siya ng bagong damit, maglalagay ng deodorant. Kasama po yan sa mga kailangan natin ihanda sa ating mga anak kasi pag nakisama sila sa ibang tao when they're working in in a certain office, for example, those are things that he needs to be able to, those are skills that he needs to be able to do. Is he toilet trained enough? Can he manage himself when he is eating? Naaayos niya rin ba yung kanyang workspace? Kaya niya bang ayusin yung mga gamit niya sa kanyang work table, halimbawa? And can he move around, in the workspace or in the classroom without any physical support? Can he do it on his own and independently? So grooming and hygiene are things that we need to look at as our kids become adolescents and adults, no? Kasama po yan. So paano ba natin itinuturo yung mga pre-vocational skills, no? Marami tayong pwedeng iturong tasks sa kanila. Matching tasks, sorting, assembly, packaging, sequencing tasks, even basic office work and use of office equipment and tools, paggamit ng stapler or pagtanggal ng mga staple wire, mga very basic things like that. Pagkulit halimbawa ng mga papeles, no, sa isang opisina, for example. These are some of the things that we can do to target all these basic work behaviors and basic work skills. The more that they do it, the more na mas nahahasa sila dito sa iba't ibang prerequisite skills na ito in preparation for work. So, isa pang aspeto or isa pang component ng what you call this, ng ating vocational education and training program ay ang tinatawag na life skills training, no, through a functional curriculum. So dito pumapasok yung academic skills na ina-apply natin in everyday practical life situations. So kasama dyan yung it's really designed, when we talk about functional curriculum, it's designed to teach the learner with disabilities kung ano yung essential sa kanyang living and working independently. No, it's also designed to enhance yung current and future independence and successful adjustment nila. So in a functional curriculum, yung academic skills ina-apply natin sa practical everyday situations. For example, pag-follow ng direction sa isang recipe book or cookbook, pagbasa ng instructions for washing, halimbawa, or pag-complete ng isang job application. No? So these are things that we look at when we talk about functional curriculum. So may iba't ibang domains, may iba't ibang nakapaloob sa sinasabing functional curriculum.
Teacher Landa.
Apo.
Yes po. Can we have a 5-minute break po?
Okay. Sige.
Okay. Thank you po, Teach. Stop screen share na lang po muna. May share lang po. Ayan. So, everyone po, sa mga participants po natin here at Zoom and as well as sa Facebook Live, we will have a 5-minute health break. So if we have to go to the bathroom, get water or coffee po, we can do that within the 5 minutes po. Meanwhile, Miss Gingy will share a video of Rose Ann from Mandaluyong po.
Ako po si Mami Rowena Iramento. Mami Beng po ang tawag niya sa akin. Ating president po ako ng Down Syndrome Association. Samahan po sa Mandaluyong ng mga magulang na may mga anak na Down. At si Rosan po, ang anak ko, ay 24 years old na siya. Ang habi ni Rosan, pag walang pasok, nakikinig ng sounds. Tapos nag-drawing. Sa community, si Rosan talaga popular to eh. Kasi friendly to eh. Oh, mahilig din siya sa mga bata. Pero siya yung nag-aaral siya, hindi ko na siya hinahatid. Pag galing sa bahay, diretso. Tapos tatawag ako sa teacher niya kung nandiyan na. Tapos pag uwi, diretso pa rin. O kaya pag nandun pa sa school, daanan mo, sabay tayo. So, ina-advise ko rin yung mga parents. Huwag i-bitok yung mga bata, bigyan nyo ng maraming time. Huwag nyo kasi working na sa school, ipapagbahan nyo sa school. Iba yung sa school, iba yung sa bahay nyo, sabi ko pang gano'n. Si Rosan sa school, doon na siya nag-start nung meron na siyang nagpa-practice na magbenta. May-training sila na, nagluluto sila, tapos yung niluto nila, inaalok nila sa sa school din, by room. Minsan umaabot pa sila sa amin. At pinayagan naman ng principal namin na magtinda siya ng pandesal. In-stop ko nga si Rosa ng pag-school kasi nga gusto ko naman level up. So we attended yung Happy Walk sa Disapi. We attended that kasi meron doon interview. Ginagawa silang job interview for ng mga batang may Down. So sabi ko, sige, grabe natin chance to in-interview. Binigyan kami ng Unilab ng chance through Project Inclusion na interviewin ulit siya para puntahin sa Unilab dun sa office nila. Yun, nagulat ako nung sinabi nga ni Ma'am Ange na tanggap siya. Diba? Parang wow, parang level up. Although before, ang start namin kasi parang part-time. Kasi baka hindi nila kayanin yung 8 hours Caravan Foods, Group Incorporated, located at Makati. Isa siyang company na nag-hire ng mga batang may kapansanan like Down syndrome, mga pipe, almost ganon yung mga trabahador nila. Si Rose, alam mo ba, ang tuwan-tuwa ako kasi first salary niya. Kasi nakikita niya ako before nag-handwash ako kay Manuel. Para hindi ka na mahirapan, bumili ka ng washing machine. That's yung first gift niya sa first sweldo niya sa akin. Yun. Ang second sweldo niya, napunta sa ate niya kasi nanganak yung ate niya, yung pamangkin niya, nasa ospital. So sabi niya, yung sweldo ko bigay mo kay ate, pabili nung gamot para sa pamangkin ko. Very happy kami, naging anak namin si Rosan kasi masayahin, mabait, at palagi niya kami nire-remind, linggo ngayon, Charge Day. Very, yan ang gusto-gusto ko sa anak ko. God-fearing din tayo. Nung nagkasakit nga ako, Papa Lord, galingin mo mama ko, ayoko mawawala si mama, yung sakit niya, ganyan. Yun lang yun, di ba? Hindi lang si mama, lahat, pati mga pangking ko, kuya ko, ate ko, pinsang ko, lahat naka-describe. Hindi siya mapagbigay na bata at wala masabi. Nung nagkatrabaho si Rose, talagang saya-saya ko, yes. Sabi ko, parang dream come true ko. Hindi pala yung kapansanan ng anak ko. Hindi nagiging balakid yung kapansanan ng anak ko para magkaroon ng trabaho. At hindi na trabaho, permanent na, regular na. Si Rose Ann, ang dream ko, na fulfilled na.
I'm Arvin Visitacion. I'm the area manager of the North area for the Caravan Food Group Incorporated. started with LA, which is founded by our CEO Francis Carl G. Reyes in 2017. Our first brand is the Elate, and then later on we come up with another brand, the Overdose. With Elate, we support the local farmers and we promote our advocacy in inclusivity and diversity in workplace. That's why we hire differently able people, usually the person with autism and Down syndrome. First, we affiliate with some organization. We get referrals from them, and then with their referrals, we look for those applicants na malapit sa mga branches na will open para mas accessible kasi sa kanila. Si Rose Ann po is from Unilab. Very jolly. So sometimes bibiro ko nga siya, oh why ano kasi mama, hindi ka ba masaya? Lagi niya sinasabi na masaya siya, nag-work siya. Tapos every time na we have like customer to bring yung orders, lagi siyang nag-suggest na siya na yung magdala. Yun, very jolly siya. We're so happy to share that we have some deaf partners and differently able employees. You can rest assured that once these people given a chance to be employed, they will cherish such opportunity and they will put to their heart that there's a company who will give them this opportunity.
Thank you, Miss Jinji, for replaying the video. I hope Mommy Weng is here with us po no, in the participants. Mother of Rose Ann from Pidad, Mandaluyong. Ayan, thank you for sharing the story. So, we will have an evaluation po for this webinar. Yan. So, the link to the evaluation will be sent in the Zoom chat, and for the FB Live, it will be on the comment section. So, it will be sent by Miss Jinji and Miss Lou. So, only those who answered the evaluation will receive an e-certificate from Northfield. Ayan. And I also sent po in the Zoom chat the link to the FB live stream of this webinar. So since it's a live stream, it will be recorded. So if ever we have colleagues or co-teachers who can't watch today, you can share with them the link of the FB live stream. Ayan. So back to you po, Teacher Landa.
Okay, thank you very much for that short break. No? So let me just share my screen again. Okay, can you see it now?
Yes po, Teach.
All right, okay. So let's continue now with curriculum, the functional curriculum. And we hear this often no, pagdating sa special education. We always say that it's important to do a functional curriculum for our students. And later on, I will discuss details about the functional academics portion of this functional curriculum. So, pinaka-importante natin kailangan tandaan when we talk about functional curriculum, it requires that instruction occur as much as possible in natural settings, no? Using actual items rather than simulated settings. So, dito pumapasok yung konsepto ng community-based instruction. So, dahil nga yung ating concern when it comes to teaching our learners with disabilities the skills is yung application of the skills in real life situations. Dapat doon natin din siya tinuturo. So, for example, in our experience now before in the learning center, we would have community living activities where the students go out in the community to really learn what it means to to pay, for example, magbabayad sila ng sarili nilang pera, mag-aantay sila ng sukle, i-compute nila kung tama ba yung binigay na sukli sa kanila. No? So, it's appropriate for students with disabilities kasi mas nababawasan yung difficulty nila sa pag-generalize ng skill. Kasi imagine natin kung nasa classroom lang tayo, no? Tapos itinuturo lang natin siya na lecture, tapos sasabihin natin, pag pumunta kayo sa tindahan para bumili ng suka, ganito ang gagawin niyo. Ang hirap po nilang maintindihan yon or ang hirap nilang matutunan yon versus pupunta talaga kayo sa tindahan para bumili ng actual na kailangan nilang bilhin. Makapagsalita sila, makapag-make ng choices. Halimbawa, very simple, pagpunta sa fast food chain, no? Yung pagturo sa kanila na sila yung pipili ng gusto nilang i-order. Kukumpute nila kung yung perang dala nila sapat ba or tama ba doon sa amount nung o-orderin nilang burger at drink. At kung may sukli pa ba sila or kung kulang, anong pwede nilang bilhin na iba para magkasya doon sa pera nila. Of course, these activities, you can introduce this in simulated sessions in the classroom. Pero importante po na after ituro sa classroom, maaring meron kayong role-playing sa classroom, no? Meron kayong simulated activity sa classroom. Dapat dadalhin natin sila sa actual community setting para doon lalo nilang matutunan yung skill na kailangan natin ituro sa kanila. No, so importante po sa ating learners with disability yung generalization, yung ma-apply nila yung natututunan nila sa isang setting, hindi lang sa classroom or sa therapy, kundi ma-apply nila ito sa bahay, ma-apply nila pag lumabas sila sa community at sa iba't iba pang lugar, no? So, ano yung mga domains, ano yung mga iba't ibang areas na dapat sinasakop ng functional curriculum. Unang-una yung self-help skills, nandyan din po yung socialization, no? Yung communication, yung vocational training, yung paggamit ng community resources. Kung may community, halimbawa, kasama sa community resources, yung community center, health center, no? At yung basic or survival academics. Ito yung very important po itong konsepto ng basic or survival academics or functional academics. Okay. So, in functional academics, ito yung usually core, no? Yung pinaka-sentro ng ating functional curriculum. So pag sinabi nating survival academics, ito yung kailangan, very minimum na kailangan matutunan ng ating mga learners with disability para mag-survive or para magamit in everyday practical living, no? So makikita ninyo may iba't ibang subjects na pwedeng nakapaloob dyan, no? Nandiyan yung functional reading and comprehension, functional math, functional language and communication. No, so for example, when we talk about functional reading, and reading and comprehension, yung functional use, yung practical use of the written media. So halimbawa, naiintindihan ba niya yung word na danger or naiintindihan ba nila anong ibig sabihin ng exit, enter, on, off, ladies, gentlemen, or fire escape, to walk, no? Keep out, poison, beware of dog, halimbawa. Naiintindihan ba nila yung mga survival words na yon, yung mga community signs or safety signs na nakikita natin sa ating community pag naglalakad tayo or nagta-travel tayo, naiintindihan ba nila? Alam ba nila yung ibig sabihin ng traffic light? Alam ba nila yung iba't ibang community safety signs around them? No? So, dyan din papasok yung career and vocational terms. Naiintindihan ba nila yung terms na boss, halimbawa, or salary? Anong understanding nila doon? Break, lunch break, no? Or first aid, mga things like that. dapat pinapalawak natin yung pag-intindi nila sa mga nababasa nila sa paligid nila, no? So, lalo na ngayon, social media, madami rin silang nababasa on social media, halimbawa. Ano yung mga basic na nakikita nila doon na dapat maintindihan nila, na na-apply nila sa everyday living. Or paggamit ng newspaper, halimbawa, anong aspeto ng newspaper ang importante na matutunan nilang gamitin. No, so this is very basic. So pag sinasabi natin tuturuan natin yung anak natin, yung adolescent natin, no, ng reading and comprehension, hindi po necessary na matuto silang magbasa ng poetry or ng mga highfalutin words. Ang very important lang, hindi nila kailangan matutunan yung malalalim na salita, kundi yung very basic lang na makakatulong sa kanila or magagamit nila in everyday living. Now, pagdating sa functional math, dyan papasok yung money and time skills. No? Naiintindihan ba nila yung konsepto ng more or less, no? Nababasa ba nila ang oras? Can they understand, do they know their telephone numbers, for example, no? Or yung address nila, even the understanding of calendar activities, no? Pagbasa ng kalendaryo para alam nila ilang araw pa ba bago magkakaroon ng ganitong activity and all that. No? Money recognition is very important. Kaya niya bang ma-determine ang value ng pera? Kung gaano ka iba ang amount or ang value ng 1,000 sa 100 pesos? Kaya niya bang i-safe keep yung kanyang sweldo? Halimbawa, sumweldo siya. Kaya niya bang i-safe keep yun? Alam niya ba na hindi basta pareho ang nabibili ng 1,000 at ng 20 pesos, for example. Yung very basic concept po yun is very important. No? In terms of language and communication, written and oral communication, halimbawa, yung pag-express ng basic ideas or opinions, no? Pag basic grammar, halimbawa, or pagsulat, very basic letter writing, even basic phone skills, can he answer the telephone? Can he take a message? Can he understand what the other person is saying? So these are very basic things that we can teach them, no, under the functional academic program. Papasok din dyan, no, when we say functional academics, they're also exposed, nabanggit ko po kanina, yung personal hygiene, no, independent living skills. Sometimes in the Learning Center before, we had a health and home economics class for our students, and dito tinuturo namin yung body care, proper body care, yung awareness nila of the changes that they undergo when they become, adolescents and adults. What's the difference between public and private activities? Even as simple as washing their own clothes. No? They can start with washing their own handkerchiefs, for example, and then washing their own underwear until they can wash their own clothes. And these are independent skills. No? So for some, it may seem na napaka-trivial, parang hindi importante. Pero kasama po yan sa ating pagiging adult, no? Kung tayo bilang mga magulang at mga teacher, yun ginagawa natin para maging maayos ang ating tahanan, no, ang ating eskwela, ang ating trabaho, yun po kailangan din natin ituro sa kanila. No? So, again, I mentioned na instruction should occur in the community using natural settings para mas maging meaningful and relevant for them. At ma-integrate nila yung natutunan nila sa classroom sa talagang ginagawa nila or kailangan nila. Yung simpleng bigyan natin sila ng homework na, sa weekend, sumama ka kay mama at kay papa para pumunta sa palengke. Ikaw ang mamimili ng prutas, ikaw ang magbabayad sa tindera, or bigyan niyo sila ng chores, no, na pwedeng gawin sa bahay. Yun po, no, kasama yan sa training na pwede natin gawin sa kanila. Yung mobility, no, transportation and mobility, kailangan talagang tuturuan natin sila kung paano sumakay ng iba't ibang forms of public transportation. Halimbawa, pagsakay sa tricycle, pagsakay sa jeep, paano ba nila malalaman kung dito na ba sila bababa? Anong sasabihin nila? That's communication skills also, no? Yung awareness of what's going on around them na, ay, ito na pala yung stop ko, dito na pala ako magsasabi ng para makababa ako. No? So, social skills, yung good manners and proper conduct in different social situations. No? Pwede natin ituro yan through role-playing or social stories na pwede nilang gawin in regular classroom sessions. No? And then awareness of themselves also, yung pag-discuss din natin ng different emotions. No? We had classes before with our students na tinatawag namin self-awareness and values education. We discuss different emotions, why it's okay to have these emotions, but how to manage them so that they can parang interact with and relate with other people properly. So for example, we had one instance, we had one student, mabilis siyang mainis or mabilis siyang magalit, and he was in this work setting na meron siyang kasama sa trabaho na very vocal, no, very verbal. So nahirapan siya, paano niya ba sasabihin dito sa kasama niya na huwag masyadong maingay habang nagtatrabaho. So we had to go through discussions na, there are different ways you can say to your co-worker na nahihirapan ka mag-concentrate sa trabaho mo dahil nagsasalita siya. So maybe you can give him, maybe we can talk pagka break time, pero pagka oras ng trabaho, let's focus on the task at hand. So you give them those strategies, no? And they will only experience that, malalaman mo lang na nagiging difficult yun sa kanya kung nag-undergo siya ng mga experiences na ito. Kasi kung tuturo lang natin siya ng blackboard, read it, and they don't go through the actual experience, hindi lalabas yung mga challenges na pwedeng makasagabal sa kanila for future work. No? So those are just some of the important inclusions in a functional curriculum. What's very important, what we found very helpful, were the community living activities, really bringing the students in the community. Kasi mas na-integrate, no? Mas napagsasama-sama lahat ng mga natutunan nila in the classroom and really applying it in the actual situation. So for example, we would have before meron silang regular trips to buying their own snacks at the nearby grocery store. So these are adults and adolescents, no, they would prepare their own money, they'll put it in their wallets, bring it, and then they will walk towards siguro mga two or three blocks away to a grocery store. And ano yung mga skills na kasama doon? Paying attention to your surroundings, making sure that you just walk on the side street. For example, alam mo na pag mayroong sasakyan na dadating, pupunta ka sa gilid, dun ka maglalakad. That's a very important survival skill. Pagtawid sa kalsada, how do you look to your left and to your right to know that it is safe to cross the street? Pagdating sa actual na grocery, papasok ka, how do you know saan pupunta para makuha yung gusto mong pagkain? Bibili ka ba ng pagkain? Bibili ka ba ng drink? Choices come into play, and then yung pagtingin mo, no? Ito lang pala yung nasa wallet ko. I only have 50 pesos. Anong mabibili ko sa 50 pesos from all the choices here? Ngayon, meron ka may encounter, for example, some students will be surprised, ito lang pala yung pera ko, ito lang pala yung kaya kong bilhin. And merong magkakaroon ng tantrums, halimbawa, or magre-react negatively to that. Now, how do you manage that? And how do you teach them to manage those difficulties? No? So those are all things that you can learn, and those are things that you become aware of when the student is actually in the natural setting of where they need to learn the skill. All right, so, okay. Now, let's go to work transition training. So, dito napapasok yung actual na mga kailangan na occupational and vocational skills. Tulad halimbawa ng paggamit ng time card, ano ba yung importansya ng pagdating ng tama sa oras, kung magre-request ng vacation time, ano yung appropriate na tono ng boses at volume ng boses na pakikipag-usap sa ibang tao, pwedeng kailangan din ng basic computer skills, paano maghanap ng trabaho, paano mag-fill out ng application form, paano gumawa ng resume, no? At paano mag-fill out ng iba't ibang types of forms na kailangan para sa trabaho, pati yung pagsagot sa interview. Yun yung mga iba't ibang bagay na actual vocational and occupational skills na kailangan natin ituro sa kanila. So kasama po yan, no? Nakapaloob po yan sa ating vocational education and training program. So dati in the learning center, we used to have a class that focused on work skills, no? And these are the things that we teach the students or that we tackle with the students. So for example, yung actual job tasks and skills dito na papasok, no? And you can deliver this to different settings. No? You can do it in a school-based setting or a community-based setting on the job training. So for example, in school-based settings, halimbawa nasa school kayo, you have an office, maybe you have a sheltered workshop, maybe you have an apprenticeship program. These are different things that the students can learn. No? So halimbawa, sa office, pwedeng merong regular na oras yung estudyante na tutulong sa office, maybe taking calls, answering the phone, taking down messages. Those are part of reception skills. Or pwedeng sila yung mag-encode ng certain documents, no? Part of clerical skills. You can teach them how to use the photocopier. So that's part of office skills also. Or collating, halimbawa kung merong mga i-collate na letters that you can do. Sheltered workshops, there are different examples of sheltered workshops that you can do in the school. For example, focusing on handicrafts, woodwork, cooking, no, baking, and packaging. And kadalasan dito po nagpo-focus yung ating mga vocational skills programs. Ang nagiging problema, this is a good starting point. Ang nagiging problema lang, pagka doon umiikot yung skill. And then we focus on the actual skill of learning how to do the product rather than looking at the prerequisite vocational skills and behaviors that you are supposed to target using these sheltered workshops. So, for example po, no, halimbawa, in the Learning Center, we used to have beadworks, for example. The purpose of the beadworks, it's not really just to teach them to bead, but to teach them the skills of accuracy. Halimbawa, no, pagtingin, tama ba yung ginagawa nilang trabaho, doon papasok yung supervision, accepting supervision, doon din papasok yung counting skills na kailangan nila for certain particular work skills, no, and things like that. Halimbawa, kung meron kayong maliit na tindahan or maliit na tindahan sa school or maybe a small sari-sari store in the neighborhood na pwedeng doon magkaroon ng on-the-job training or work training yung ating estudyante or anak. Ano yung mga skills na pwede nilang matutunan in store work? Nandun yung inventory, pagbilang, ilan na ba yung binibenta nating sardinas? Konti na lang ba? Baka kailangan ng bumili? O ilan pa yung kulang na noodles? Madami pa ba tayong supply ng sabon? You know, things like that. Even yung selling disposition. Masungit ba tayo pagka makikipag-usap sa customer? Or ano ba yung tamang disposition, yung tamang attitude when we're talking to a customer, when we're selling our items, no? And handling the orders themselves or payments. No? So, madami tayong pwedeng gawin in the school pa lang na makakapagturo sa ating mga sa ating mga estudyante or anak ng very important work skills. In the community, no, we really recommend community mapping. We look at what's around in the neighborhood. Meron bang laundry shop? Meron bang malapit na restaurant? Meron bang barber shop or parlor? Meron bang maliit na grocery store kung saan pwede silang mag-work training for maybe kahit 1 hour or 2 hours in a week, just so they get exposed to that regular uh, schedule of work, no? Kasi kailangan natin din i-build up yung kanilang endurance for work. No? Nabanggit kanina sa video no kay Rose Ann, 'di ba? Na umpisa they start na half day lang muna yung trabaho until eventually they can go full day. Kasi we also need to build up their endurance for work. Kasi hindi naman sila ganun kaagad sanay sa pagtatrabaho. No? So in the learning center before, what we did, we started what we called an on-the-job training program in partnership with different community venues as early as 2003. So we worked with somebody in food service, no, yung trabaho ng students nung time na yun, they were the ones in charge of um, what we call this handing out leaflets or brochures, or sila yung nag-assemble ng mga boxes, pizza boxes, no, for the pizza store. Tapos we also partnered with the hotel, and in the hotel they worked in the back office. Sila yung nag-fold ng mga towels or table napkins for the restaurant, or sila yung sa stock ng pantry ng mga ng hotels, no, for all these items. We had one student who worked in the office. Tapos yung work na binigay sa kanya is to categorize receipts, no? Siya yung nagsasabi na ito yung mga receipts na galing sa ganitong sales. Ito yung mga receipts na galing sa ganitong sales. And then we had a partnership with a retail store where the students were in charge of welcoming guests, no? O kaya sila yung nagda-dust ng mga tinitinda, binibenta sa store. Sila yung nag-aayos ng mga rubber shoes na naka-display, no? So things like this. So we need to maximize these opportunities in the community to help out. So nabanggit ko kanina, if there's a parlor nearby, very basic cleaning and housekeeping skills are good. It's a good start, no? Yung pagdust, pagwalis, no, pagtulong in washing dishes, no, and in sorting laundry. These are very good starting points for teaching them work skills, no, and really helping them understand the concept of we work. When we say we work, from this point or this time to this time, we focus on what we're doing. Kasi importante po matutunan nila na hindi na pag sinabing trabaho, focus ka talaga doon sa ginagawa mong trabaho. Okay, so again, ideally, of course, in the most ideal setting, yung experience ng community jobs nila dapat nagmamatch doon sa gusto nilang gawin. That's the most ideal setting. So babalik tayo doon sa pinag-usapan natin kanina about learning your child's profile, ano yung interests niya, ano yung strengths niya. And then that's what we build on and that's what we look for. Yun yung opportunities na dapat i-provide natin sa kanya. So kung halimbawa you have a child who likes working, sabihin niya, gusto ko lang maging gamer, mommy or daddy. Gusto ko lang maglaro ng games. Then explore that, no? Explore that. Ano ba yung pwedeng niyang maging trabaho in the gaming world, no? Maybe he can find work, or maybe he can do volunteer work, or tumulong siya in a computer shop, no? Pwedeng magsimula sa paglilinis, so he understands the concept of taking care of equipment, making sure that a workstation is clean and organized, no? Things like that. Does the child want to work in food service? Mommy, Daddy, I want to work in Jollibee. Of course, we have to, syempre, i-explain natin that there are steps to get to that stage. And what steps are those? Then first, you need to learn how to handle food properly, handle food properly, work in a basic food service setting. Muna, halimbawa, maybe you can work in a small cafeteria, busing tables in the cafeteria, or pag-serve, paano mo i-handle ng tama yung pagkain, no? Things like that. No? So pag-aaralan po natin yan based doon, again, sa interest ng ating anak, no? In the most ideal setting. Now, in other settings, minsan, what we're left to do is um, have our students undergo all these different work environments. Tapos, kung na-expose natin siya sa iba't ibang work environment, after that, saka lang niya sasabihin na, Teacher Landa, I want to focus on clerical work. And then that's when you can move on to the next step. No? Kasi some of our students, hindi nila alam agad kung ano ba talaga yung gusto nilang trabaho. So our job is to really expose them to as many work environments as possible, and then let them be part of the discussion as to what they want to do next, no? Or what they really want to pursue next. Okay, so now we go to the different models of integrated employment. Nabanggit sa atin kanina, no, madalas yung konsepto natin ng trabaho para sa ating mga anak with special needs, sa ating students with special needs is very limited. But let's look at the different options that we have for them. All right, so this is a great quote, no, from Temple Grandin, no, and I like using this quote because it really gives us insight to what work means, no, not only for us, no, but most importantly for our learners with disabilities. Temple Grandin says that work is more than just a livelihood or a paycheck. It is a key to a satisfying and productive life. For many on the autism spectrum, kasi siya ay may autism, no? It is the glue that keeps our lives together in an otherwise frustrating and sometimes confusing world. Certainly, my life would not be worth living if I did not have intellectually satisfying work. And I like using this quote from Temple Grandin. You know, si Temple Grandin, for some of you may know her already, no? But she's an American scientist. She's an animal behaviorist. She's a very prominent figure in humane treatment of livestock. And she has autism, no? Autism spectrum disorder. She's a very avid autism spokesperson. She's one of the first individuals on the spectrum na nakapag-document ng kanyang personal experience of autism and paano siya naging successful. Now she has a doctorate and she's a leading figure in her field, no? And she talks about why it's important to advocate for rights and for neurodiversity in workplaces and in schools. So when we look at work, our society is based on a work ethic or a work concept, no? Kadalasan, yan ang una nating tinatanong pag meron na tayong mga adult na anak, no? Makipag-usap tayo sa ating mga kumare, or kumpare, anong trabaho na ng anak mo, di ba? Isa yan sa mga nagiging basis ng kung paano natin tinitingnan ang isang individual, no? So we place a very high value on work and the people who contribute to work, no? Kasi that's part of economic contribution to society, no? So lahat ng mga teens, lahat ng high school students and college students, all adolescents and young adults face that important question of what they want to do with their lives, no? Pero dun sa mga persons with disabilities, sometimes it's a very hard question to answer, no? Minsan very limited yung kanilang options. But what is very important to know is that when an individual with disability is employed studies show that they have a higher quality of life. Mas masaya yung buhay nila, mas maganda yung buhay nila when they are able to say na, I hold a job, this is my job, regardless of what job it is. When they are proud of what they do, when they are productive, then they can say, oh, I'm contributing to society, um, um, and that gives them a sense of pride, and a sense of fulfillment and happiness. Just like you and I, tayo, ganun din tayo. Pag may trabaho tayo and we are able to contribute, we're able to help out our families, we feel good about ourselves, And that's basically, we sometimes think our students, our kids don't want to work, but they actually do want to work. So what are the different models of employment? Ano yung options na available para sa mga anak natin with special needs, with disabilities, when it comes to working. And we have different, we will look at 3 models of employment. First is competitive employment. And in competitive employment, basically, the learner or the adult with disabilities can work at a job site without ongoing support. So ito yung ating mga estudyante who graduated from high school and who are able to maybe hold a college degree or a vocational degree and really enter a formal vocational education degree and enter competitive employment. And when we say competitive employment, this is a full or part-time work um, in an integrated setting kasama ng iba't ibang tao, regardless of whether they have disabilities or not, and where they can earn minimum wage and above. So there are now, I think what's great about what we had, lalo na pre-pandemic, we had different organizations who were providing these opportunities for our students, and our learners. We have organizations like Project Inclusion, through Unila Foundation, nabanggit kanina sa video kay Roseanne. And then Autism Society Philippines also has an Autism Works program. So they give opportunities for learners with disabilities to actually work in competitive employment. Of course, this is not an option that's available to every one of our students or every one of our learners. But there are still other options, And this is where supported employment comes in. Now, in supported employment, these are settings where the student with disability or the learner with disability, the adult with disability, um, can work, real work, but with the support of a job coach. Work in a job site with ongoing support. For example, a job coach. So yung success ng program na to is really based on job development, identifying kung anong trabaho in a company or in a community based employment or organization na pwedeng gawin ng person with disability. So, pag tinignan natin, may 4 types of supported employment. Meron tayong tinatawag na small business enterprise. So, dito sa small business enterprise, the employment is really through a business that the family or maybe the school puts up or the individual puts up. Tapos, ang target nun is to take advantage of the commercial opportunities in the community. So, sometimes there are small businesses who are put up and they hire a small number of individuals with disabilities, to be part of their workforce. So, merong iba nagtatayo ng halimbawa small coffee shop or a small bakery. Tapos all the students or all the workers or the employees have special needs or have disabilities. So that's one type of supported employment. And then you have a person there who oversees what happens and assists them, as they go about their tasks, or their work skills. Then we have the mobile too. This is another option. Yung sa mobile crew naman, it's a small group of employees that's also supported by a person, no? And who organizes them, a small single-purpose business. So for example nito, yung mobile crew ng halimbawa, they're a mobile crew for grounds maintenance, or they're a mobile crew for car washing. And their job is pupunta sila from one house to another, or one office to another, and then they do the work there. So there are mobile crews, for example, for car washing, they do house visits, or there are mobile crews, for example, for housekeeping, no? So sila yung pupunta sa bahay ng ng customer or sa office ng customer, and their job is to clean up the place, no? From basic housekeeping, from dusting to sweeping to mopping and things like that. But that's their job, no? And then whatever goes back to them, no? Hati-hati sila dun sa mobile crew na yun. So that's an option. There's usually a general manager who coordinates the work. Merong tatanggap ng job orders, no? And then usually it's a small crew of 3 to 8 individuals, maybe 3 to 5 individuals, may kanya-kanya silang trabaho. Tapos sila yung pumupunta sa what you call this, iba't ibang, yun na, so kung saan may job order, no, iba't ibang setting. So that's another option. Another option, there are 2 other options. Now, there's the work enclave. In the work enclave naman, it's a small group of people with disabilities within a business, as a typical business. Meron silang special training or job support na binibigay sa kanila for that particular business or industry. So let's say they work in a call center. Meron silang small group na ito yung task nila, and they're trained in that setting for that particular business or industry. And then there's usually still support personnel, no? Meron pa ring job coach who oversees what's happening or what they're doing and how things are going. But the good thing about it is it's community based. It's within a work environment with other people. And then there's individual placements, no? So sa individual placements naman, this is also supported employment. Pero dito, you develop the job with the employer in the community based on the preferences of that particular adult with disability, no? So you ina-identify mo ano ba talaga yung gustong gawin nito, then maybe we can put him in this setting. So for example, in this photo, this young man wants to work in a grocery and can help out in a grocery. So you identify the skills that he has, the tasks that he can do, and then you train him in that setting, and then that's where he's placed. And then every so often, he will be checked by a job coach kung kaya niya yung ginagawa niya, if he is encountering any difficulties, and how they can solve whatever those challenges are. No, so those are the 4 types, no, of supported employment. And there are different elements, no, in supported employment, and these are things that we usually hear. There's the employment specialist, commonly known as the job coach, and usually they're the key in making a supported work program effective. So what they do is they provide direct on-site training. So sa umpisa, nandyan madalas yung job coach. Now, the purpose of the job coach is really to go through all the tasks that the adult with disability has to go through. Ituturo niya kung paano gawin. Maybe help out with task analysis. Paano mo i-break down para mas maging madali. Offering suggestions to make the job easier, no, or simplify it. And really, their purpose is to serve as a primary source of support and assistance. But gradually, dapat the purpose of the job coach is to gradually wean his support, no? So eventually, dapat nababawasan yung time that they spend together until such time that that the worker or that the employee with disabilities can do it on his own already, provided that the supports are there. Doon tayo papasok, and that's where the natural supports come in. No? So now the direction really, more and more people are leaning towards natural supports rather than job coaches, or really putting in place natural supports, no, after the job coach has weaned his support. So in the natural support, dito pumapasok yung any assistance, relationship, or interaction within the actual work setting already, no? So dito na pumapasok yung routines na nakikita in the actual setting. Ituturo dapat ng job coach how those routines can be a signal for the employee with disability to do the next step also. So hindi na kailangan may ibang tao pa na papaalala sa kanya ng kailangan niyang gawin. No? Nakapaloob na doon sa routines ng actual work setting yung mga prompts na kailangan niya. So it can be work routines or social interaction with other employees. So for example, may alarm na nag-go off para mag-indicate ng lunch break, then dapat alam na nung employee with disability na that's his prompt also to stop working and go on a break. Or nakikita niya, naglalabasan na pala yung mga employees. They're leaving their workspaces, removing their aprons, etc. Oh, that's an indication also that it's also time for me to stop my work and then go on my lunch break. No? So things like that. And then there's the natural cues or self-management. So dito yung what the job code teaches now is how the student or how the employee responds independently to the cues that occur naturally in the workplace. And then now we go to sheltered employment. No? So ito yung very common. It's the most common type of vocational activity for adults with severe disabilities, no? Or disabilities and severe disabilities. And here in a sheltered employment, the work that the people do, or the work that the adults with disabilities do, is in a certain facility that's oriented towards a particular occupation. So siguro you're familiar with tahanang walang hagdan, for example. That's an example of a sheltered employment, no? Where ang ginagawa nila doon, they provide the work there make wood crafts as their products, no, for the business or for the sheltered business. There are three types of sheltered employment. The evaluation and training, so it's just used as a transitional workshop, hindi siya forever na nagsistay doon, kundi ginagamit niya yung sheltered employment as training and community-based training before he transitions to another community-based work. Meron namang another type, which is the extended or long-term employment, na doon na talaga nagtatrabaho yung worker with disability, no, employee with disability. And these could be employees with disabilities who really have severe disabilities na mahihirapan to be in integrated settings. And then there's work activities. So this is an example of a sheltered employment, sheltered workshop, or sheltered employment in the US. And I like showing this video kasi it shows the different aspects of the vocational workshop that they have. And you can check their YouTube page, YouTube account also. Makikita nyo yung iba't ibang workshop or vocational skills na ginagawa nila doon. Now, the Shoebox Tasks is actually a business that was put up na ang ginagawa nila, ang focus nila is making materials for other students with disabilities. No, so and then most of their employees also have disabilities like autism and intellectual disabilities. Okay, so let me just play it. It's just a short video. So this workshop also uses structured teaching, no, or visual supports. So makikita niyo kung gaano ka-organized then yung kanilang work areas, no, and how they simplify the task so that the students and the employees can do the work on their own using visual supports. So that what they do here is assembly tasks. No, they put together. They're the ones who put together, and they put together the materials and assemble it. No, and these are shoebox tasks that they sell to different schools. So in sheltered employment, sometimes there are assembly lines, no? So one student does a task, and then or one worker employee does a task, and then when he is finished, he passes on that task to another who completes another step in the process. No? So usually ganun yung work na ginagawa nila in some sheltered employment options. Okay. Right. Okay. Okay. Let me just Okay, so those are now the options. No, those are different options that we have for the employment of our learners with disabilities. Let's talk about challenges, and I'm sure we all know what the challenges are. No? So on top of the very obvious challenges in terms of job availability, and high rate of unemployment, even for neurotypical individuals, of course, that goes double for our learners with disabilities. No, on top of that, there's also still that yung misguided, and limiting presumptions. Marami pa rin sa ating mga kababayan, no, the people around us who look at learners with disabilities as meron pa rin lack of acceptance to what they can do, and what they are capable of doing. So that really limits the opportunities for our learners with disabilities, and that's why there's a need for us to really advocate, and really show them that our children, our students, can actually be productive in different work settings, also given the proper intervention and the proper training and support. Pumapasok din dyan sinasabi yung self-advocacy and self-determination. No? A lot of our learners with disabilities, they really don't assert their legal and human rights, no? Tulad ng mga nabanggit ni Sir Raniel kanina. That's why it's important for parents and teachers alike to really advocate for them and assert their rights. So kasi very few of our learners with disabilities self-advocate, no? So we can also try to teach them how to advocate for their needs, how to really assert what they need from government, for example, and from different organizations, government organizations, who can really help them when it comes to vocational education and training. No? So we still have a long way to go, pero one step at a time. No? In anything, progressive change is good. No? So let's just keep at it. Um, I'm going to the last few slides. No, some tips. No, for vocational training at home, especially now that we have a pandemic. Uh, some parents would tell me, Teacher Landa, paano natin ituturo? Hindi kami makalabas sa community. Nakakatakot pa para makisalamuha sa ibang tao. We're very cautious, no, um, about doing this, no. So um, there are things that nabanggit na natin kanina, no? There are so many things that you can teach your child, even at home, that will target vocational skills. Unang-una, of course, let's go back to the first few slides that we had earlier. Identify your child's interests, no? And use that as your entry point kung ano ba yung mga ituturo natin sa kanyang next steps to level up whatever skills or interests he currently has. No? So you can go through all those interest inventories that I shared with you earlier, and try to see baka merong nagsa-stand out na as a possible vocational preference, no, work preference for your child. And then that's what you can start with. No, you can start with that. Do household chores together, and then wean your supervision or your support so that they can do it on their own. No? So these are just some of the many chores that they can do at home, that they can master, and that they will learn or pick up vocational work skills, no, pre-vocational work skills and work behaviors from. No? Doing the laundry teaches them about categorization, following directions, math skills, no? Kung halimbawa gagamit kayo ng washing machine, yung pag-measure ng powder detergent, that's a math skill, no? Ilan yung kailangan mong scoops for a certain amount of laundry, no? Sequencing the steps for doing the laundry task properly. Filing if you have receipts or if you have mail that you receive, mga billing that you receive that you need to be categorized. That's something that you can do with your child. No, that teaches them to follow directions. It expands their vocabulary also. So kung ano ba yung mga anong kaibahan ng iba't ibang documents that you ask them to file or to collate or to put together or fix. Meal preparations are great in teaching them all these different skills, no, sequencing, um, how they problem solve, how they can take turns, recalling information. If they are very interested in the food service industry, for example, then this is something that you can really teach them to do, no? Even reading from a recipe and following a recipe, preparing the ingredients, cleaning the ingredients, peeling them. So many skills that they can learn that they can apply later on in future work if this is something that they want to do. Table setting, following directions, even inventory of the pantry or the stock room. So before you go for groceries, ipa-check ninyo ano ba yung mga nasa pantry na kulang, ano ba yung narami pang supply, what else do you need. It teaches them math skills, no, categorization, and all these different work skills, no, and the important thing to do here is to really establish a routine and make it a part of what they do on a regular basis, so that it really becomes part of uh, part of part of their skill set, no? And that's what we really want. At the end of the day, vocational education and training is really about enlarging your child and your students' skill set. Madami siyang matututunan na skills para mas madali siyang makapaghanap ng future work, or ng livelihood. No? So, um, at the end of the day, what we really want to do is to emphasize what the child can do. Let's look at the different strengths that they have and how we can maximize them, capitalize on them, because that can be what they end up doing as a livelihood, no? If we can study it better and see paano ba niya mas ma-enlarge itong interest niyang ito to become livelihood for him or her, then then that will help us prepare them for their future work environments. No? So thank you very much for having me this afternoon. I hope that helped all of us understand the concept of vocational education and training better, and gives you some starting points of how to do it at home and how to do it in school as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Teacher Landa, no, for a very comprehensive discussion. So kahit ako po, personally, madaming natutunan on this topic. Ayan. So very thankful for this opportunity as well. And actually, kahit bago po tayo matapos, madami pong nagpapasalamat na teachers and parents dahil very relevant daw po yung topic and information na nakukuha nila from this webinar, and looking forward na ma-apply po nila sa kani-kanilang classes na hawak po. Ayan. So far po, meron po tayong 2 questions. Ay,
Kai,
sige po. Sir Ranil.
Nahin lang muna yung question, no, na sa topic ni Teacher Landa.
Yes
No,
po.
ako yung sasagot, no, sa question ni Jack Bater, no, from
Apo,
Davao.
yung from Zoom. Yes. Okay, sir. Sige po, ayan. So for others po, bali, may isa lang po tayong question na from FB Live. Ayan. So, from Miss Raquel Tud, I believe from Kaisaka Malate. So, ang anak ko po ay isang with Down syndrome, 14 years old, pero hindi pa siya nakakabasa at nakakasulat. Nag-aaral naman po siya, and ang level niya ay CWID Kinder. Yun, nakakapagsalita naman po siya, pero hindi maintindihan ng kausap niya. Sa pera naman po, hindi siya marunong, and alam niya ay yung barya lang. So baka po hindi yung mga paper money. Kahit bigyan siya ng 20 papel, bibili lang siya at di niya alam kung meron pa siyang sukli. Ayan. So, hindi din po siya naiintindihan ng binibilan niya, kaya kailangan po may kasama. Kung sakali po, pwede po ba siya magtrabaho kahit hindi pa po siya nakakasulat at nakapagbasa? Basta marunong lang po makipag-usap ng maayos. Marunong naman po siyang sumunod sa utos, basta maayos lang po. Ayun po.
Okay.
From a parent po siya.
Thank you very much for that question. No? So, kadalasan for learners natin who are not able to read or who are not able to speak clearly, we usually recommend yung tinatawag natin mga augmentative communication forms. No? So, baka pwede siyang turuan to use visuals or pictures para ma-express niya kung ano yung gusto niya at para makipag-communicate din sa kanya, no? So that's one form of that's one way that we can help him to really come up with a good communication system for him to be able to say what he wants, and for him to also be able to understand what other people are saying. Kasi po pagka hindi magiging maayos yung pakikipag-communicate sa kanya, mahihirapan po siya to understand work tasks, no? Mahihirapan din po siya para turuan ng mga dapat niyang gawin na trabaho. So very important po at this point is to establish a good communication system for him, no, that he can use to communicate with other people. So you can explore the use of pictures or visuals. No, you can look up po some websites. There's Do to Learn. Meron ganung mga websites na may mga pictures na pwedeng gamitin para masasabi ng bata na gusto ko nang kumain, kaya gusto ko nang matulog, gusto kong maglaro, gusto ko ng ganitong trabaho, no? Pwede po siyang magtrabaho, yes, if you ask me, pwede po siyang magtrabaho as long as ma-identify natin, going back to the webinar po, the contents that we mentioned earlier. If we know what his interests are, alam natin kung ano yung interest niya, alam natin kung ano yung mga strengths and weaknesses niya, then makakapag-come up po tayo ng plan for him kung ano ba yung gusto niyang gawin as work, no? Very good po, 14 years old pa lang siya, no? We still have really the time to prepare him or her for it. Pero first things first po, establish a communication system for him or her para mas makapag-usap siya ng maayos and makapag-communicate ng maayos to other people. And then identify what he likes to do, what he wants to do, and then look at the different opportunities that can be made available for him or her para matutunan niya yung mga skills para dun sa trabaho niya. I hope that somehow gives you some insight po, no, of what to do next.
Thank you very much, Teach. So I hope Mami Raquel po still watching on our FB Live. So yun po. Sir Ranil, would you like to answer po the question first of Sir Jack? Kasi we have another po dito sa Q&A.
Okay, sige. Jack, dagang salamat, no, sa pangutana mo. Kaya may mga local government units, no, na actually nagbibigay, no, noong nakaraan, no, may mga nagbibigay, no, ng sa mga taong may kapansanan, no, at sa kapamilya na may anak na may kapansanan ng social amelioration. No, bahagi 'yon ng social protection mechanism ng ating gobyerno. Nitong nakaraan, no, may mga LGU din, no, na tuloy-tuloy na nagbibigay sa kanilang mga constituents, no, na may kapansanan. Isa sa mga halimbawa, no, ay ang congressman ng Mandaluyong City, no, medyo malaki-laki ata, no, ang ibinigay ni Congressman Boyet Gonzales ng Mandaluyong City. Diyan sa inyo sa Davao, siguro pwede mong tanungin din, no, sa inyong local government unit. I think malakas diyan, no, ang mga samahan, no, ng mga magulang. I think meron diyan Down Syndrome Association ng Davao City. Meron din diyan Autism Society Philippines, no, Davao City chapter. I-try mong hanapin si Feby Matthews, no, siya ata ngayon yung presidente, no, ng Autism Society Philippines. Siya din ata, no, yung presidente ng Parents Mobilization Action Group or PMAG. No, I think sa samahan, no, ng mga tao may kapansanan, pwede mong hanapin, no, si Arman Amancio, no, kaibigan ko siya. I think isa siya sa barangay council, no. I think kilala din siya doon sa City Hall, no, sa inyo sa Davao. May iba din, no, ng mga non-government organization na tumutulong, no, sa mga persons with disabilities, no, at mga children with disabilities. Siyempre isa na doon ang Northfield Foundation, no, at ang aming mga local partner organization. Kung may iba pang kailangan, no, pwede ka rin lumapit, no, sa inyong kung diya sa Davao City Social Welfare, no, and Development Office, no, or sa inyong Department of Social Welfare and Development Regional Office, no, may tinatawag sila, no, na AX. or assistance, no, for individuals in crisis situation. So pwede yan silang ninyong lapitan. Ang importante, no, sabi nga ni Teacher Landa, bahagi na rin ng magkakaroon tayo syempre, no, ng resource mapping, no, sa ating sa ating lugar. Sino ba yung mga nagbibigay? Saan ba tayo makalapit? May mga libre ba, no, na pwede nating lapitan? Pero bahagi kasi ng tinatawag natin na social accountability, ang accountability, no, ng ating gobyerno, no, accountability ng ating local government units, no, na dapat bigyan nila, no, ng mga pangailangan ang lahat ng kanilang constituents, may kapansanan man wala. Okay, sige Jack, siguro yun lang muna, no, yung maibahagi ko. Pero diyan naman sa Davao City, no, very active naman, no, ang mga leaders, no, ng persons with disability, yung leaders ng mga magulang, no, na may anak na may kapansanan. Sa inyong pangmakailangan, siguro sa prosthesis tayo, no, at sa orthosis, no, pwede nyo namang hanapin, no, ang Davao Jubilee Foundation, no. Isa din siya sa mga local partner organization, no, ng Northfield Foundation, dyan mismo sa Davao City. Okay? Sige Kai, yan lang muna siguro.
Thank you, sir. Ayan. So, sir, baka gusto niyo na din pong sagutin kasi from Miss Jane, meron po akong tanong. Meron po bang institusyon nakakalinga sa mga batang may kapansanan kung sakali po na mawala ang mga magulang at napabayaan ng ilang kamag-anak?
Okay. Ang ating parang pinopromote, no, na perspective, no, on that, na yun na ang pinaka last resort, no, na sana ang mga magulang sila muna ang mag-alaga, no, ng kanilang mga anak, no, na may kapansanan. Kung hindi kaya, no, ng mga magulang, baka meron din, no, mga kamag-anak na mag-aalaga, no. Ang Northfield, no, actually meron siyang tinatawag na foster care program, no. We will explore that, no, kasi very challenging, no, ang magkaroon, no, ng ang mag-alaga legally, legal ang pinopromote ng Northfield, no, legal adoption, legal foster caring, no. So we will explore, no, if later on, no, Northfield will accept formally, no, doon sa pagpo-foster siguro, no, ng mga individual na may kapansanan. May alam tayo, no, pwede nyo ring hanapin, no, ang contact information ng ang the LC Gatchis Village. Yan yon sa may Alabang, no. Under siya sa DSWD, no, National Capital Region. So pwede nyong tingnan, no, pero maganda na bisitahin nyo muna at ang pamaraan dyan ay makipag-ugnayan, no, sa inyong local social welfare development office kasi may proseso din, no. Gawan yan sila, no, ng social case study at marami pang mga legal requirements, no, na dapat ihanda, no, ng inyong social worker para magkaroon ng placement. I think meron din sa Pampanga, no, sa Amor Village, no. Pwede natin parati, no, hanapin, no, ang mga numero kasi ito ay nasa Department of Social Welfare and Development. No, I think meron din ibang mga pinapatakbo, no, ng mga private organization, no. Hahanapin din natin, no, ang kanilang mga numero. Pero nga yung sinasabi natin, no, na una siguro yung mga magulang at mga kamag-anak, no, na mag-alaga sa kanilang anak o kamag-anak na may kapansanan. No, pero may iba namang option, no, na pwedeng gawin, no, para maalagaan, no, ang isang batang may kapansanan. Yun lang, Kai.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for answering po. And nag-acknowledge po si Sir Jack and Mami Raquel po. Thank you daw po for answering their questions. I have another question po for Teacher Landa from Teacher Ami po ng Akapin. Possible din po ba ma-hire sa work pag ang age ay nasa 25 to 30 years old po? Salamat po.
Yes, I think po possible po, no, hindi naman po major consideration yung age as long as the prerequisite skills are there. Yun po yung ating kailangan tandaan, no? Kung kaya niya po bang mag-hold ng work, meron na po ba siyang na-develop na work attitudes and work skills, interest niya yung trabahong yon, then by all means, pwede po siyang ma-hire, no? Of course, it will also depend lang on the policies of the organization that if they want to join, or of the company they want to join, or kung government agency po ba yan or government organization. Pero po hindi po dapat maging balakid, no, yung ating edad, yung kanilang edad para makapagtrabaho, as long as na-train natin sila with the prerequisites, then by all means they can work po.
Kaya nga siguro Teacher Landa, no, kaya nga nagkakandak talaga, no, ng mga series, no, of webinars, no, kung wala siguro pandemic, baka face to face to, no, ikakandak natin Teacher Landa, no, para yung mga ating mga local partner organization, no, ay ma-empower, no, ma-empower talaga kayo, no, kasi dapat alam naman natin yan, no, na dapat maaga, no, dapat maaga ang pagtuturo. At ang magulang mismo dapat alam nyo rin, no, ano ba yung mga paghahanda para magkaroon din kayo, no, ng kaalaman at kasanayan na magtanong, no, ng tamang tanong, no, at kayo mismo din, no, ang magdesisyon para sa inyong mga anak. No, syempre katulong diyan, no, katulong diyan ang ating mga minamahal, no, na mga teachers, no, of children with disabilities at ang ating mga CBR workers, no. Kaya nga siguro Teacher Landa, baka ito yung follow-up, no, follow-up na tanong din. Sige Teacher Landa, no, nalaman na namin, pero kami ay magulang lamang. Sino kaya, no, sino kaya yung magtuturo sa amin, no, para mas maging siguro maayos, no, at kahit na simple pero maayos, no, ang pagpaplano namin, no, para sa transition, para siguro pre-voc, voc and transition ng aming mga anak, no. Baka yan yung ano, yan isa siguro baka nahiya lang yung mga magulang, pero I think, no, this is a very very relevant question. No, sige Teacher Lan.
I think that was really one of our purposes then, Sir Ranil, with this webinar. I wanted the parents to really be empowered to know na, kasi lalo na ngayon, no, in a pandemic na madaming ginagawang learning online, and it's difficult for a lot of our learners with disabilities. I want the parents to understand that they can actually do it on their own at home, no, with the tips nga that we mentioned earlier. We start at home, and empowering them, educating them about the options will also allow them to talk with the teachers na ito yung mga pwede nating gawin para hindi tayo nalilimitahan doon sa ano lang yung mga nakasanayan na natin na ginagawa for pre-voc and voc training in the schools that our children go to, no. So magandang exercise to para mapalawak yung understanding natin, and tayo mismo sa atin mismo manggaling ano yung mga iba't ibang bagay na pwede natin gawin, no. A lot of, in my experience, no, marami akong nakakausap na mga parents na kadalasan nga hindi sila through the school gumagawa ng paraan para mabigyan ng trabaho yung anak nila, no. Some of the parents I know, sila mismo yung gumawa ng paraan to talk to certain companies or organizations to take in their child initially for training. Madami akong kilala na sa umpisa volunteer lang, volunteer work lang ang ginagawa, no, sa company or sa organization, until such time na makita din ng company or organization na very beneficial yung tinutulong nung learner with disability, and then they are absorbed by the company. So unfortunately at this stage medyo limited talaga yung mga opportunities for our learners, but if we take that in, kung anong opportunity na nandyan, gamitin natin, i-maximize natin, then that can be a step in the world of work for them, no? So kung sa pagtuturo, these are great opportunities, no? The ones that Norfield does, and really exploring, there's information is really available online kung ano yung mga skills na pwedeng ituro, ano yung mga curriculum na pwedeng gamitin. But again, let your child lead you, no? It will be your child who will lead you kung ano yung interest niya, kung ano yung gusto niyang gawin. Tapos pag-aralan niyo yung trabahong gusto niyang gawin, and then you just break it down and see what can be the next step na pwedeng yung ituro. As in anything, no, kung sa ating mga neurotypical na anak, sinusunod natin kung ano yung gusto nilang maging course sa college. The same way for our adolescents and adults with disabilities, we follow their lead para mas maging successful sila.
Teacher Landa, may sinasabi, no, si Ma'am Sandra, no, from Cebu City, no, nagtuturo daw or nagtitrain, no, ang ating TESDA, no, ng iba't ibang skills din, no, para sa mga adolescent, no, sabi niya adolescents with autism. Balikan ko nga, yun sabi ko nga kanina, no, dapat alam natin, ano ba yung mga available resources, no, sa ating paligid, no? Kasama na diyan siyempre ang TESDA, no, alamin natin, no. Punta din tayo sa PESO, baka may opening, no, na ano, na job opportunity, no, para sa mga adolescent, no, with autism. Kaya na-realize ko lang ito kay, no, kasi 'di ba, pandemic, no, parang very challenging, no, mag-come up talaga ng mga activities, no, at this time, no. Siguro, no, kung may mga panahon, no, kung balikan natin kanina, no, yung ladder na pinakita ni Teacher Landa, no, baka magsimula tayo, no, doon sa pagkilala, no, sa ating mga anak, pagkilala, no, sa ating mga estudyante. 'Di ba yung first ladder doon, ang sinabi ni Teacher Landa ay profiling, no? So i-profile muna natin, alamin natin ano ba yung sitwasyon nila, ano ba yung mga kaya nila, ano yung hindi nila kaya, no? At i-profile din natin, no, ang ating environment, no? Ano ba yung mga, sabi ni Teacher Landa, ano ba yung mga business establishment doon, no? Saan ba pwede, if ever, no, pag mawala na yung pandemya, sino ba yung kakausapin namin, no, na pwede, no, kahit mag tingin-tingin lang muna, introduction lang muna, kausapin sila, ano ba yung perspective nila, no, sa mga kabataan na may kapansanan, no? I'm sure, no, marami tayong magawa, no, siguro magiging creative tayo, no, and resourceful, no, sa ating pananaw. Kay, meron pa bang meron pang question kay, no, in relation muna sa topic kay?
Sir Raniel, if I can address the question from Miss Sandra, no, yung sa TESDA. The good thing with TESDA kasi is they have the curriculum, no, for different vocational courses. I am unaware if they are offering it to special needs, to those with disabilities, no. But what we can do as parents and teachers, we can look at these modules that they have and then see kung paano natin siya mamamodify to teach the skill to our student, no? Kasi medyo formal yung sa TESDA kasi it's formal vocational education, very stringent yung mga steps, no, madaming mga kailangan matutunan, mapag-aralan. The important thing to do for our learners with disabilities is to simplify it for them. No? So you can use that as basis, tapos isi-simplify natin para yun yung ituturo natin sa ating mga anak. If parang kumbaga we don't have to reinvent the wheel na hahanap tayo ng curriculum that's readily available on their website. No, they have a website, tapos nandun yung iba't ibang modules. Tingnan natin, kung halimbawa, meron kayong anak who wants to be a barista, halimbawa. They have a module on for baristas, and maybe you can modify that. You can see ano ba yung mga steps na kailangan palang matutunan ng barista, and then maybe you can introduce that to your child or to your student. No, at least you're getting as close as possible to the formal way of teaching it, but you're simplifying it for your child or for your student.
Teacher Landang, sinabi ni Ma'am Sandra, no, at TESDA is teaching vocational skills training, especially for adolescents with autism. So baka meron sa kanila, no, sa TESDA Cebu, no. Kai, can you read? May binahagi kayo sa atin, no?
Yes.
Okay, actually kilala ko ata to, may dalawa siyang anak, no, na may acute intellectual impairment. I think ang nag-train dito ay ang Leonard Fosire Disability, no, ang grupo, no, ni Ma'am Hazel Borja. Nasa Q&A type, pakibasa.
Ayan. So, this parent would like to share po, no, na meron po siyang dalawang anak na individuals with intellectual disability who are working already through the help of Unilove Foundation. So the suggestion for parents is to be proactive, try to seek help from NGOs, LGUs, and other groups or associations who can help in making their children to be productive. Attend seminars, seek help from the professionals and those with experiences.
Okay.
Ayun.
I think yan yung mga related, no, sa topic, no, pero
Yes po.
sagutin naman natin, no, yung bonus na to, no. Pwede naman to sagutin ni Teacher Landa. Nandito si Teacher Mai, baka gusto niya rin tong sagutin, no, although it's not related with the topic, but this is a very important question. Okay, can you read the question?
Yeah. Hello, ito po yung PDM ko ba, sir?
Yes, about
Okay
masturbation.
Po. Yan. So, ano daw po yung pwedeng ituro sa skill na sa child with autism para hindi po siya mag-masturbate?
Teacher Landa, kaya mo ba yan sagutin?
Yeah, it's a question po from our Facebook live stream po.
Okay. I'll do my best, na Sir Reniel. That is actually one of the common issues that we've encountered also, no, before, lalo na pag dumadating sila sa adolescent stage, no, tsaka sa adult stage. Now, the concept of masturbation is actually a very tricky topic kasi a lot of things come into play there, no, yung family values, you know, how families see masturbation, no? Kasi merong mga families na okay lang mag-masturbate, tapos meron naman tayong mga families na they really don't like it, no? So it really will depend also on what the family's view is of that activity, no, or that behavior. And I say this because we've had parents before na tinuturuan namin na teach the child private, no, and private activities and public activities. These are things that you can do with other people, but there are things that you have to do in the privacy of your own bedroom, for example. But we had parents, I think we had one parent who said, but I want him to learn it because it's a need, it's a biological need. So again, like I said earlier, it will really depend on what the family's view is. Now, if the family doesn't want the child to do it for whatever reasons, then you have to choose. Then you have to teach the child the concept of private and public activities. No, masturbating is something that he can do in the privacy of his own bedroom, um, and that's not something that you do when other people are around, because it's a private activity. No, it's something that you can do on your own. Now, for families naman who's okay to do it, who are okay to do it, it's also still important to highlight that that's something that you do in the privacy of your own home. We had one parent before who wanted the therapist. We had one parent na who actually wanted one of the therapists to teach the child to do it properly, so that he would really get gratification or satisfaction from it, no? So doon naman syempre magka-come into play naman yung values din of the therapist, no, if the therapist will be willing to do that, and yung safety issues, no, safety issues for the child, because we all know that our children with disabilities are subject to abuse, no? So we have to be very careful when we talk to parents about it, no? Dapat mas tinuturo talaga natin na that the child understands the limits of his body, and who can touch him, who cannot touch him, and how he needs to protect himself, kasi we need to make sure that they will not be subject to abuse. So very tricky yon, Sir Anil, but hopefully that gives some insight into how that can be handled, no?
Okay, thank you, Teacher Landa. I think sufficient na yung sagot ni Teacher Landa. Okay, Kai?
Yes, same po, sir. I think baka po may iba din na hindi yun tinanong pero maaring nasagot din po on their mind po. Ayan. Thank you very much, Teach. Magbabasa lang din po ako na parang kagaya po ng isa, sharing po. Gusto ko lang po i-share sa aming transition program sa SPED ISEC ay supported ng LGU, especially the building for our students. So nagkaroon po kami ng mga gamit for cooking and baking donated po ng Rotary Club from Sir Edwin Cabrera po. Ayan. So yun po, no. Thank you po for parents, and ito po from LGU and schools na nag-share po ng kanilang good practices and experience po. Yan. Sige po. May question pa po tayo from chat. Baka last na po ba ito, sir?
Okay, I think last na lang. No? And then
Okay.
siguro an announcement ng activities ng Northfield later on. And then Kai, yung acknowledgement mo, no, sa Teacher Landa and sa ating participants siguro. And then we can end, no, with a photo opportunity.
Okay po. For our last question po, meron po ba kayong maire-recommend na job for visually impaired transition program? For example, training for preparation for their work? From Ma'am Evelinda Gutierrez po.
Okay, for those with visual impairments, no, or usually sila yung talagang maaga pa lang pine-prepare talaga sila for work when they are part of a special education program, no, very early on. Madami kasi mga options ngayon now for our learners with visual impairment, no, iba't iba, like halimbawa for well, madalas they are being trained in reflexology, for example, or yung iba sa kanila may iba't ibang options din, no? But I am not very familiar with transition programs for them, but I am sure, and I know that when they are enrolled in the public school for those with visual impairment, very early on sila tinuturuan ng vocational skills. Sa resources for the blind, I'm sure they can also put you in the right direction for possible programs for them.
Okay. Thank you po.
I think they can also ask, no, from one of the partners of Northfield, yung Atrib, because at RIB, no, they're also training, no, individuals with visual impairment.
Yan. So, thank you, Sir Ranil. Thank you po, Teacher Landa, for answering all our questions. So, for the announcement po of Norville activities, Sir Ranil, would you like po to invite them po?
Ikaw, Kai, ano may activity mo next time? So, ate, may pinakamalapit na activity, Kai.
Ano po ba yun? Yung inclination po ba?
Yeah,
Go,
you invite
sir.
them to inclination, Kai. Okay,
Ayan, so,
for the inclination, no, every Wednesday, no, yung ating topic is about, no, the National Children's Month celebration, specifically, no, on children with disabilities, and Kai, no, will be one of the panelists, no, to explain about the activities of Norville Foundation in the coming days, no, and also isa sa mga ating advocate, no, a child with visual impairment, si Andre Mariano, no, at ang Council for the Welfare of Children, no, and 26 and 27, Kai, no, Norville, with the local partner organization and a local government units, no, representative, no, we will be having our 2021, no, National Conference of Children with Disabilities, okay, by invitation. And then on November 30, we will be having, no, the kumustahan para sa mga magulang, no, yung mga coordinators, no, and leaders, no, ng ating parent support groups, no, sa ating Down syndrome project. And then on December 3, in celebration of the International Day of Persons with Disabilities, meron tayong webinar din, no, on community-based rehabilitation or CBR, no, an effective strategy for the genuine inclusion of persons with disabilities. No, yung speaker natin si Miss Clarissa Fitesio ng Norville, no, meron tayong i-invite, no, from Persons with Disability Affairs Office from Antique. And I think nandito kanina, no, si Ma'am Cora Clarin, no, isa din sa mga head ng PIDAW, no, sa Cebu, na mag-share din siya ng kanilang karanasan. And nandito din kanina, no, shout out ko lang, no, yung presidente, no, ng ating Federation of PIDAW sa buong Pilipinas, no, si Ma'am Miriam Llanos, no. And on December 4, this will be our 2021 Friendship Games of Children with Disabilities, no. Pangalawang taon na natin na gagawin nating online ng ating Friendship Games. Kayang-kaya, no, and we are expecting, no, a lot of participants, no, children with disabilities, Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, no, na mag-join. Okay, and I think na maraming salamat sa mga nandito pa rin hanggang ngayon. Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. No, kahit sa Dinagat Island meron tayo. No, marami tayo, no, sa Mindanao, no, na sumusubaybay, Teacher Landa, sa atin, no, at maraming talaga mga teachers, no, from the public schools and also parents who until now are still joining us. And syempre, no, ang mga iba pang mga staff ng Norville, no, from our Enable Communities for Inclusion program, no, and yung mga local partner organization natin, no, from different parts of the Philippines, and also, no, yung mga parents din natin. Okay, Kai? So yun lang from me, Kai.
Thank you very much, sir, for the announcements. So, for those who are asking, kasi habang nag-a-announce si sir kung pwede daw po silang makakita ng list. So, stay tuned lang po sa aming Facebook page for the announcement. Ang amin pong Facebook page ay Northfield Foundation INC. So, search po natin yan sa Facebook. Let's like and follow it so we can be updated of the webinars and upcoming activities of Northfield. Ayan. So, sige po, Teacher Landa.
Shameless plug lang ako. Please follow me po on Teacher Landa at Facebook and on Instagram. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Teach. Yes po. Go plug lang po. Ayan. So, request po ako from Miss Lou and Miss Gingy po to resend the evaluation form. So, the evaluation form will be open during the weekend. So, we will close it on Monday and only those who answer the evaluation form will receive an e-certificate from Northfield. So, ayan, maraming salamat po sa oras ng bawat isa at syempre maraming salamat po kay Teacher Landa for a very clear and comprehensive discussion on webinar on Everyone Can Work. So, ayan po, maraming salamat din po sa lahat ng mga teachers, parents, local partner organizations na umattend po today and other staff from Northfield. If we can turn on our camera po para makita din po nila kayo. Ayan. So maraming salamat po sa bawat isa. Stay tuned lang po tayo sa Facebook page ng Northfield for the upcoming activities. Ayan.